the overarching question here is, are they giving Hofer more? And I think there is a possibility of that. But, and I know you guys know this, but, we can map out the next 3 or 4 games and probably be close to what the Blues are thinking. But does that backfire, if Hofer doesn't play well tonight and they mix things up? So I think that Hofer has played well enough to earn some more playing time, and it looks like the Blues are giving it to him.
That was Jeremy Rutherford about a week ago talking about the possibility of Joel Hofer getting more opportunities in net alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, it seems as though that's the plan. Joel Hofer has started each of the last 2 games. The report coming out of Optional Skate this morning is that he will once again be in net for the Blues tonight. They've got a back-to-back, so he was going to start one of the next 2 games no matter what. Both of these are at home. Winnipeg tonight, the Rangers tomorrow. If you had to prioritize one game over the other, typically you would prioritize the conference game, which is the case against Winnipeg, as opposed to New York. So the fact that they're going to Hofer here for a 3rd consecutive game does feel meaningful to me, Alex. What did you make of the decision to stick with Hofer in this one?
I think you're seeing them change the guards for now, that Joel Hofer is the starting goaltender for the team, like the number 1A versus 1B. And I'm not saying that we're creating a goaltending controversy here. This is just Binnington is going to have a step back, and you're going to get more of a workload for Joel Hofer. So, go beyond these 3 consecutive games. He also started that game against the Boston Bruins on the 9th. He started the game against the Ottawa Senators on the 6th. And I think that's all that he started, because Binnington played that game against Boston on the 4th. So that's 2 extra games.
5 out of the last 7 will be Hofer at this point.
And my assumption is you're probably going to see Joel Hofer play Saturday against Florida, and Binnington would get Tampa on the 22nd. So out of the 8-9 games that they're going to play in the month of the month of December before Christmas, 6 of the 9 are going to be Joel Hofer. So this is what we talked about last week when they had that Ottawa-Montreal game, and it's like, man, Joel Hofer looked great in Ottawa. Binnington got the win against Montreal, but it didn't look as crisp. I think this is just hey, look, Binnington has played a ton of hockey games up to this point, hasn't looked the greatest at times. Let's just run with Joel Hofer. And I think what's also notable about this is I didn't think Joel Hofer had a great game against Nashville. I thought there were a couple of goals that he would tell you I'd want back. But they said, no, we're going to go right back to him. Winnipeg, to me, is a game you start Binnington in, because the Winnipeg Jets, it's the rematch from the playoffs last year. You always give, as BK mentioned, your number 1 guy the toughest matchups. And I think they're doing this because most of the time when Binnington struggles, it's because you've overworked him a little bit. And I wonder if that's where they're at, to where, look, we're going to let Joel Hofer run for this a little bit. Binnington's going to get the Rangers. He's going to get one more after that. And then you go into the Christmas break and we reset it.
I like it. I like that they're going with Joel Hofer tonight against Winnipeg, against a Western Conference team. If you're Jim Montgomery, you still have to coach as if you're trying to get yourself into the playoffs. Even if we in this room, I think all agree at this point, it's time to accept your fate. That's a management decision, not the manager's decision. And for Jim Montgomery, I think you got to go with your hot hand right now. And even though I agree, Hofer was not great in that game against Nashville, that's 1 dud out of his, last 5? For Binnington, it's like 50-50 right now on the dud meter. So I think it's the right call to continue to ride Joel Hofer. Like you said, 5 of the last 7. I like what they're doing right now. I think you have to stick with Joel Hofer until you start to see signs from Jordan Binnington that he is starting to get his game back.
So he's played 21 games up to this point. And I'm trying to look at where he was at this time. So we're December 17th. He played 24 games last year at this point. And we all
Really?
Yeah, we all agree. And David Alexander even said, I think Drew Bannister used him a little too much early on because you were trying to be overly aggressive and win hockey games. And what did they do? They took a step back, because from December 17th until the end of the year, he only played, I think he started in 8 more games. So I think this might be a little bit of, hey, he's played 21 now, he did 24 last year. It started to fall off a little bit in December. Let's pull the reins back a little bit. Let's pull it in for Jordan Binnington and let Joel Hofer get the stretch, because the future is Joel Hofer. Whether we like it or not, Jordan Binnington is still a guy that I view as a number 1 goaltender, and he's the guy I want to net when you need to win a game. But Joel Hofer is the younger goaltender that you would imagine the Blues look at and say, here is what our future is. Whether they re-sign Binnington or not, Joel Hofer is the guy. Start giving him a little bit more of a stretch. Find out what he is.
And again, beyond that, this to me is not about the future. It's about the here and now. if you're trying to salvage the season, and there's every reason to try to do so because the Western Conference has not run away with this. As skeptical as I am about the Blues finding a way in, the West stinks. This conference is terrible this season. It's incredibly mediocre, I guess is the better way to frame it. And there's still an opportunity there. So if you're trying to run through that door and you see an opening, well, your best chance to do so currently is Joel Hofer. He's the guy that gives you the best chance to win right now. Now, it didn't look good against Nashville. I understand that, but it hasn't looked good for most of the season for Jordan Binnington. And I understand there's context to this. He is not alone in failing. The entire team has been bad this season. I'm not picking on Binner. That guy, I agree with Alex. You got a big game, I want that dude in net. If I'm a playoff team, I'm trading for him to try to give myself the best chance to win when the games matter the most. I trust that dude in those big moments. You got a game in mid-November or right now, late December. I trust Joel Hofer in net more than Jordan Binnington. Again, that is not an indictment on Jordan Binnington as a big game goalie. It's an indictment on his performance so far this season, though, because he has not been good. If you just look at the numbers, if I stripped the name and I showed you resumes of goalies across the NHL based upon the numbers, he is one of the worst and least productive goalies in the NHL so far this season. I believe that can and probably will change by the end of the year. But right now, to give yourself the best chance, you should put Joel Hofer in net. Yeah. And they're doing that. I think it's the right decision.
And you're creating competition still. Like, whether you like it or not, like, Joel Hofer could have a bad game tonight. Binnington could go out and post tomorrow night against the Rangers. And then guess what? Binnington's probably going to play the next game against the Panthers. And if he does well there, probably going to play again against the Lightning. Like, the Blues are in the position now where we got to go with the guy that's playing well. And again, this is not a disservice to Jordan Binnington. Although he's had his struggles, the team in front of him has been awful. Just like they've been awful at times in front of Joel Hofer. He's robbed some games. I don't know if Jordan Binnington has done that a lot yet this season. So it makes the most sense. And for Jim Montgomery right now, I think you're just trying to find some type of spark to add confidence to a group that is lacking it every single night that something happens.
All right. On the other side of things, the other aspects of changing roster configuration right now, Otto Stenberg is expected to play tonight, according to Jim Montgomery. Also, Alex's guy, Jonathan Berggren is also going to be a part of the lineup this evening. I have no idea what this is going to look like. Yep. I don't know what the line combinations will be because the Blues have an optional skate today. So we'll find out together this evening as they take the ice for the first time together.
I could try and guess it for you if you want, buddy.
Go for it.
I think you're going to see Berggren jump in on that line where McGing was yesterday. I think
Suter,
Joseph Berggren.
Joseph and Berggren.
That's what my assumption would be. Unless they want, I just doubt they're going to want to put him.
Where do you think
top.
Otto Stenberg goes?
Stenberg's going to stay with Dvorsky and Neighbors. But I just realized that I took Shen out of this as well. Shen's playing, so I think they're going to go Fabry, Thomas, Buchnevich. I think they stick Neighbors, Dvorsky, Stenberg. Maybe it's going to be
Shen,
Suter, and Berggren. And
Joseph Shen on that top line with Thomas.
It's possible. I don't know if Fabry gets to sit there, but I think regardless, Berggren's playing on your third line.
Okay.
And then I think if Joseph dips down, which he probably will, he's going to move down to Matt Luff's spot, and Luff might be the one that's out of the lineup.
Can I ask a really stupid question, Alex?
There are no stupid questions here on BK and Ferrario, BK.
It's pretty stupid.
I told you there are no stupid questions.
Given the way that the lineup looks right now, and I'm not saying this guy is your best player, but we've seen this with other teams where sometimes there's just some kind of chemistry that develops. They've tried everything with Robert Thomas this season. Everything. Everybody that is currently on the roster and has played a game for the Blues, they've tried it, and for the most part, it hasn't worked. Would you consider Berggren on that top line?
That is a stupid question, Brandon.
I know.
No, I would consider it. My only hesitancy with that is...
I have 100 hesitancies with it.
I mean, to be fair, if you believe what the lines were trying to figure out where Shen was, they might have been experimenting with Fabry on that line.
Yeah, and the Fabry one at least makes sense because he knows the system a little bit more.
He's been here for like a week.
Yeah, but he's also played in the NHL for a decent amount of time, and he also understands the style a little bit quicker than maybe a 25-year-old Berggren does.
I guess.
The only hesitancy I would have, although you have a lot of them with your great question that you asked, this guy knows nothing about St. Louis or the players or the coach. He's coming from a Detroit organization.
That might be better for the Blues.
Maybe it is, but I don't know if you want to put him on a line that's going to have to eat 19, 20 minutes a night. So, like, slow play it. Put him on there, and that's why I think if Shen gets in on that top line, then Fabry dips down and you go Fabry, Suter, Berggren, or maybe they keep Fabry up there because, again, they've tried everything with Thomas, Shen included. Nothing's worked. Put Fabry out there, and then you put Shen in the middle with Suter on the wing and Berggren on the right side. One of those. But my guess is Berggren's going to be on that third line, and Joseph dips down and plays on the fourth line with Sundqvist and Toropchenko and luffs your healthy scratch.
We have arrived at the place where I was with the Cardinals, where it's like, yeah, sure, try it.
Yeah, nothing's worked. I mean,
I'm good with whatever. Whatever the combination is tonight, I'll probably be like, I see the
classic
thought process.
Instead of pulling names out of a hat to build the lineup, it's building your forward lines by pulling names out of a hat.
The great Jordan Deacon just chimed in, and she's absolutely correct. Berggren has experience with Pius Suter.
Cool.
They played together in Detroit. So
did it go well?
Sure.
I mean, Suter had 15 goals the one season that he played there in Detroit.
Let's do that.
14 goals another season.
I'm in.
All right.
I mean, we're all
cool. That's great stuff, guys. Great breakdown. High five, everyone.
I don't know what else there is to do. Blues back in action tonight. Alex all dressed up for it. Excited to go to the game tonight.
Now I know there's a game.
Tomorrow.
Blues versus the Jets. Pre-game starts at 6. Puck drop for that one tonight at 7 right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN.
I got to let the glutes heal up from working out on Monday, so I'll be there Thursday.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Some baseball news to pass along. Free agent pitcher Brad Keller is in an agreement with the Phillies on a 2-year, $22 million contract. Robert Murray was the first to say that it was close.
Luke
He's
Weaver.
a starter, right?
No.
For the Phillies?
He's a closer.
He might be. I mean, heck, they've lost Wheeler. They've potentially lose Lazard, or not Lazard.
My guess is they'll announce this and
Suarez.
say he's going to be stretched out as a starter. Maybe by the end of the season, he's a reliever for them, but he'll be that swing guy. That would be my guess.
I could see it. Yeah, I think that does make sense because that was some of the rumor that when people would connect the Cardinals to Keller, that's what the rumor was. Luke Weaver, by the way, 2 years, $22 million with the Mets.
Oh, interesting.
So the Mets just pick another closer. Devin Williams, Luke Weaver. Man, we're building an old NL Central bullpen.
Just sign
Edwin Diaz.
Diaz.
Maybe Diaz didn't want to be there.
If you're going to
Maybe he said,
do
bleep
this,
these guys.
Just spent more money on those two.
Edwin Diaz. I'm sorry. I think what they're doing is crazy. I don't get it. And if they end up trading for Mason Miller as well, we're going to look back at this offseason and be like, what were you doing?
I don't think they're doing the Miller trade now.
Okay.
Now that they signed Weaver, I'm skeptical they're doing that.
I think they should not do it, but
I agree.
We'll see.
You know my stance on bullpen arms.
What's your
I know.
stance?
They're like goalies.
Don't pay 'em.
Don't pay them.
Don't trade for
Don't
them.
trade significant assets for them.
At the deadline, I'm cool with it. At the
agree
deadline
on
for
the
the stretch
deadline.
run, you know who's good in that season.
Yeah.
And so you're not making a significant deal for like the future seasons. You're just trying to capitalize on who's been good that year. In the offseason, nah, man. No chance. Not interested. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes or so, speaking of baseball, the Cardinals picked the perfect offseason to tear this thing down to the studs. But next, oh boy, I got some hot water yesterday with Mizzou fans, Alex.
Oh, jeez. What are
Talk
you doing?
about it next year on 101 ESPN.
tough situation because you got Ahmad Hardy, who is a consensus All-American, but I think Jamal Roberts is as good a back as there is in the country. And how do you beg Jamal to take less to stay here? You know, I mean, that's the real reality of it. And we're asking him to commit to a new way and do something different. But that's a really tough decision. If anybody in St. Louis has third-party NIL that they'd like to donate or work through to keep Jamal Roberts around, we'd love to talk to you about it because he's a heck of a player, and we'd love nothing more to have him be a Tiger for his career.
Jamal Roberts rocks. He's awesome. I would love nothing more than to see him at Mizzou for the long term. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Alex, my comments yesterday on Jamal Roberts did not go over well with a certain segment of the Mizzou fan base, especially on social media. That is to be expected with the way that social media operates. I want Jamal Roberts to be at Missouri next year, guys. I would love for that to be the case, but
Twitter account doesn't seem so.
If we look at this through Jamal Roberts' perspective, and it's why Eli Drinkwitz commented on the matter yesterday, I'm not sure that makes the most sense. Now, if he decides, hey, I just love Mizzou, I want to be in Columbia, I've always dreamed of playing for this team, and I'll take less to stay here. Dude, that's awesome. I made a decision for me and my family to come here and live in St. Louis. Like, this is where I want to be. This is where my family wants to be. And so we chose to be here. I had a bigger and more financially suitable opportunity to stay in Kansas City at the time. I chose not to because I wanted to be with Kara and we wanted to make our family here. So, yes, people make decisions like this all the time where it's not purely financially based. But for a guy like Jamal Roberts, who's going to be a junior next year, if he wants to be an NFL back, and I think he is, I think he's going to be an NFL football player, it's hard for me to look at this and say, without having my Mizzou blinders on, the best opportunity for him exists at Mizzou. And I know some people have shot back with, yeah, but BK, look at where he ranked in the SEC last year in rushing attempts. Well, sure, because a lot of other running backs got hurt last year. Jamal Roberts last year, if you just look at it in the SEC, he was 22nd in carries per game behind his quarterback, Bo Prabula. So, again, I would love to see him back next season. I don't think it's overly realistic for that to be the case. And I think this is a reminder of what the transfer portal is. And if I'm looking at it through the players' lens, Alex, I think this is awesome for Jamal Roberts that he's going to get this chance. Mm-hmm. This is a kid that was not highly regarded coming out of high school. He was a good prospect, but not like a 4 or a 5-star player. Mizzou's, honestly, their backfield in general is a great sign of what the transfer portal has been good for. Ahmad Hardy commits to, Southern Miss or whatever, or Louisiana Monroe, whatever it was, out of high school, has an unbelievable freshman year, transfers up to Mizzou, gets the opportunity, becomes a consensus and probably unanimous All-American because of what the opportunity that existed through the transfer portal and NIL opportunities. He said yesterday he's coming back. Coaches aren't even calling him because they know he's a Tiger. That's great. That's huge news for Mizzou. That a unanimous All-American and a potential Heisman candidate for next year has basically decided, I'm coming back to Mizzou. Awesome. For Jamal Roberts, he had a very different path. Came to Mizzou out of high school as a St. Louis kid, has mostly been a backup his entire time at Mizzou, and now, because he was so great on the field in his limited opportunities last year, he's probably going to have a chance to go make real money, like life-changing money for him, and to go get a huge opportunity to showcase his skills on an even higher level at a place like Notre Dame or Oklahoma or Alabama or Florida or wherever he decides to go. So this is honestly the system working. There's a lot of stuff that's broken in the system. This is it working, even if it doesn't benefit Mizzou the way that it did when Ahmad Hardy decided to come to Mizzou.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, first of all, you go the personal side, and I'm a total agreement with you. Like, this is awesome for Jamal Roberts. As much as it stinks for Missouri Tigers fans, like, for him, this raises your chances of going to the NFL by not being the secondary piece behind Ahmad Hardy. You get to go somewhere and do what Lacey just did this year. Like, you get to go and maybe be the top dog on a really good team. The other factor into this, too, is I have to imagine, because Drink said it, if Jamal Roberts stays, he's going to eat up a lot of the money to keep him there. And if you want Mizzou to improve, It's going to have to throw money at other areas on this team, specifically quarterback, offensive line.
100%.
Like, their defense is changing because a lot of your playmakers are going into the draft. Like, you've got to spend money to go get better players in certain positions. And again, I hate saying this, but you've got Ahmad Hardy, and he's going to take a bulk of the runs next year.
Yep.
And I also
should.
Yes, and I also trust Mizzou in identifying talent on the running back side for how successful they've been in the last couple of years.
point.
So, like, we talked about Alugbade, how he's going to probably cost some money. I want to keep that dude. Like, they don't have a whole lot of weapons on the wide receiver.
How about Josiah Trotter, who's going to have opportunities in the NFL if he wants to go,
Yes.
but you can incentivize him to stay by offering a pretty big contract for next season. This has become, in a lot of ways, like NFL negotiations. We talk about this with the NHL, Alex. Like, just to localize it, I didn't want to trade Ivan Barbashev, but
yes,
they
you did.
probably needed to because of the situation they were in. If you kept Barbie, there were other players that you couldn't keep on the roster that you wanted to. And it's just, there are cap casualties. There's only so much money to go around. And for Mizzou, it probably doesn't make sense for them to have a bunch of their cap, if you want to call it that, going toward the 2 running backs on the roster when you could otherwise use that to fill a hole at left guard or to fill a hole at defensive end where they're getting a bunch of players leaving their cornerback. All of us said this season, hey, man, they've got a problem at corner. Like, they need to find a way to solve that in the offseason. Well, now is your opportunity to go do that. A guy that started this year at Georgia just hit the transfer portal last week. I'd like to go use the money that some are suggesting you can use on Jamal Roberts. Go pay that guy to prevent teams from throwing all over you next year the way that they did at times this season.
Well, and the big thing, too, is, like, go get a quarterback. I mean, I know the names aren't as exciting as years past, but still, if you're going to complain next year, if Zollers is the guy and he doesn't look like he's ready for the task, but you wanted to keep Jamal Roberts, well, those two things can't happen at the same time. You need the money to go get that quarterback.
All right, so on the other side of things, the big news yesterday, beyond just the transfer portal stuff, was Eli Drinkwitz talking about his offensive coordinator position. And he started out by saying, like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and call plays. No, I'm kidding. Twitter would be mad at me if I did that. He talks about the process and the kind of candidate that he's going to be looking for. Alex, take a listen.
You know, the biggest thing for me in this league is this league doesn't allow for training wheels. Like, there's not a lot of first-time play callers having a lot of success in this league. Like, you got to have some battle scars. You got to have a level of toughness. You got to have an understanding of who you are, what your identity is. And so for me, that's going to be a priority in this thing. You know, I've had a lot of people reach out and recommend a lot of people that are great candidates and great people, but it's going to be somebody who I feel like has been in the fire before and understands it and knows what they're getting into. And you know, we got to improve the pass game. You know, you look at our 4 losses this year, you look at our 3 losses last year, you look at our 2 losses the year before that. Our inability to consistently convert third downs in critical games or throw the ball has been a major factor in our losses, and we got to get that corrected and cleaned up. So, you know, we have a pretty strong run game here. They have the Doak Walker Award finalists 3 out of the last 5 years, SEC leading rusher 3 out of the last 5 years, 2 consensus All-Americans 2 out of the last 3 years. I think we've got a pretty strong foundation of how we run the football, but we got to improve. That's what I'll be looking for.
First of all, I think that's music to Mizzou fans' ears to hear Eli Drinkwitz be open and honest and candid about the fact that, hey, our passing game has to improve. Yeah. We've got to be better, and it's been the reason that we struggled in some of these big games over the last few seasons. He's 100% correct. It's got to get better this upcoming year. I don't know who that's going to be, but I do think it suggests they're not going to just promote from within. I don't know if you guys heard that the same way, but I heard this guy is going to go out and hire a proven offensive coordinator, probably at the Power 5 level. Who that candidate is, what that looks like, I don't know. Somebody in the YouTube chat, Eric, says he's describing Bobby Petrino. Maybe. Like, that is somebody that would fit the criteria that he just mentioned there. But there's probably 100 different play callers that fit the criteria that Eli Drinkwitz just mentioned. Gabe DeArmond mentioned on his site earlier today, like Garrett Riley, the Clemson offensive coordinator, is somebody that he heard not from Mizzou, but elsewhere in having discussions. Gabe talks to a lot of people that might be of interest, might be an interesting candidate for Mizzou. Garrett Riley is still the OC at Clemson right now, but I don't think Clemson loves the idea of him being back. I mean, Josh Heupel was fired from Oklahoma. Just because you get fired or you're not wanted at your current place doesn't mean you're a bad offensive mind and it can't work elsewhere. That is the kind of candidate that I would be interested if I'm Mizzou. I don't know if it would work, but it would be intriguing to me. And they've got the kind of money that they could flash for a candidate like Garrett Riley where he might listen. They could pay $2 million next year for an OC and they wouldn't have to blink an eye about it. So I'm really curious to see where he goes with this, but he said all of the right things if I'm a Mizzou fan.
Yeah, especially for me.
Are you? You're trying to get rid of Jamal Roberts.
Just to be clear, I am.
That's true. It's like he's a Blues fan. I wanted to trade Barbashev away. I just think that the fact that he's trying to make a significant improvement is a telling thing about Drinkwitz, to where you're not complacent and you're not like, let's just go get somebody internally. Let's go out there and actually upgrade and fix a problem that has been here for the longest time.
Yeah, I agree with what BK said. They're going to go externally for this hire, and I'm not expecting. I think it was the DC where they got him from South Alabama. I don't think it's going to be something like that. I think you're right. I think it's going to be someone that's either had previous experience calling plays at the Power 4 level, or it's someone that is currently a OC that's at a Power 4, like Riley, who you had mentioned. Maybe he ends up leaving Clemson, and then Mizzou jumps on that and see if they can bring him in. Like, that's my expectation of what they're going to do.
And the reason Riley's name even came up is because he was on Drinkwitz's staff at App State. They worked together. Drinkwitz was the head coach there. Riley was the running backs coach. Riley the next season got that
What a coaching staff.
got an opportunity to be the offense coordinator at SMU. Had a ton of success there. They were top 15 in scoring and total offense in the 2 years that he was the play caller. Gets the job at TCU. You guys may remember those teams. Went pretty well. They ended up going to the college football playoff, 9th highest scoring offense in all of college football, averaging almost 40 yards or 40 points per game. He was ultimately named the top assistant coach in all of college football for that season. Gets the job at Clemson, hasn't gone as well there. And I think a lot of that is because Dabo has not done a good job of upgrading that roster. He has not adapted to the times of college football, and a lot of coaches are a reflection of the talent that they have. So could it work at Mizzou? Yeah, man, it worked at SMU. It worked at TCU. It worked when he was at App State. He did a pretty good job at Kansas before that. He's always had success. I'd be very interested in that kind of a hire, but it doesn't. I'm using Garrett Riley's name as a placeholder here. And for those that aren't familiar, yes, he is related to Lincoln Riley. So that's same lineage there. Similar kind of an offense as well. And obviously that offense has had a whole hell of a lot of success in the last 10 to 15 years in the college football landscape. Coming up in about 15 minutes, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. But next, the Cardinals could not have picked a more perfect offseason to tear this thing down to the studs. We'll let you hear what one national insider had to say about the landscape shift around the Major League Baseball scene next here on 101 ESPN.
Darren Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update, driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet and Giant Londoff Autoplex. Blues will be back in action tonight as they host the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage tonight starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet and Giant Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T1 on BK. So I was reading over at The Athletic. Ken Rosenthal, I think, is as trusted as you can get when it comes to Major League Baseball news. He said the following in his column today. Baseball free agency moves at its own pace. Teams are just as active exploring the trade market as they are to the open market. And trades this offseason are more difficult to complete for an encouraging reason. Virtually every team in Major League Baseball is trying to improve right now. He continues. The St. Louis Cardinals are a notable exception. The Rockies and White Sox aren't exactly in go mode, but as one executive put it, quote, no team wants prospects right now. If you're willing to take prospects, though, you'll get more on the dollar than you would for major league players, end quote. Alex, my response to this was the following. Great planning by Chaim Bloom. Perfect timing for the Cardinals to tear this thing down to the studs. When there are too many people in one market and not enough in another, you want to be in that other market. So this is the old Moneyball thing, right? People weren't paying at the time for on-base percentage. The idea behind the Moneyball thing, and we don't have to get into a long discussion about it, but it was not that on-base percentage is the most important thing in baseball. It was teams aren't paying for this thing that's super important, and because it's important and people aren't paying for it, we should go ahead and get these guys. Well, rewind for the last 5 years, tanking was less valuable because everybody was tanking. If there are a lack of tanking teams right now, which means nobody wants prospects, they're all trying to get these good quality, high-level major leaguers right now, that's the market you don't want to be in, and it's a perfect time to fit into the spot that nobody else is in, which is the team that's taking on future assets for their current major league roster. And for the Cardinals, they got a whole boatload of those guys. Wilson Contreras is here. Jojo Romero's there. Brendan Donovan. You want a Lars Nootbaar? How about a Nolan Gorman? Can I offer you, I don't know, a Pedro Pajes? All of these guys are potentially gettable. Hell, Andre Palante, you guys want to talk about him? He can serve as a left-handed. He throws with his right hand, but he can serve as a really solid lefty reliever. And there's
clarified.
There are no left-handed relievers available in the free agent market at this point.
Oh, we have one.
Jojo.
Yeah.
And by virtue of his splits, basically Andre Palante.
That's
so
two.
I say all of that to say this. Cardinals are in a really good spot right now, Alex.
Heck yeah, they are. And this is why if you're Chaim Bloom, like you just wait in the weeds, man. All you do is you just lie down and you wait for somebody to come back to you. Because like we talked yesterday with the Seattle Mariners, teams are going to go for those big swings early, those major league players. But those teams will find out pretty quickly in the trade market, yeah, but you got to give up major league talent if you want to get Ketel Marte, if you want to go get Duran from Boston. Why? Because those teams want to compete. Mm-hmm. Man, the Cardinals are the perfect position where, like, we're not trying to compete right now. So, hey, you're not going to get Ketel Marte unless you want to give up Bryce Miller or Brian Wu. You know what you can do? You can give up your top prospects because we don't care. What's that? You don't want to give up your best prospect? Yeah, we'll take the third best pitching prospect.
And we'll don't care how far away he is, most importantly.
Yeah, like he can be an A-ball. We'll see him in 2028.
Yeah.
Great.
Like the Cardinals are your one-stop shop to go get major league talent and not have to take a shot at your major league talent. So this is why I think Chaim has the mindset of like, look, we're not going to just sit back and say, well, yeah, it's gonna be 5-6 years. No, we want to do this aggressively. But now is the time you can do that aggressively, because if you're able to strike on a couple of these prospects, develop them in 2 years, you're talking about guys getting major league opportunities in 2 to 3 years, which is right in the timeline of what Chaim Bloom has talked about.
Yeah, and this is why it makes sense for them to be going this route, as BK had said. And I think they were going to go this route no matter what. I think if there were multiple rebuilding teams, I still think Chaim would have torn this down, just because I think he wanted to bring in his own set of players and just do things from scratch. And let's be honest, it's the best way to guarantee yourself your 5-year contract if you're a president of baseball operations, to go to ownership and say, yeah, the other guy, boy, he really sucked at this. Let me kind of restart and do everything new. So it's perfect timing for the St. Louis Cardinals. Let me ask you guys this. Would it make you more willing to listen on Burleson because of how high his value would be? Because you mentioned a couple of names in there to where, like, they're listening, Gorman, Newbar, but you're kind of selling at, like, 50% their value, maybe a little bit lower. A guy like Burleson, man, he would be at peak value. He's got control. He's left-handed. I know it's not like Donovan versatility, but if you want, he can go to a corner outfield spot, play it adequately. He can play first base. He can be a DH.
It's an interesting point. The names that are being brought up in return for Brendan Donovan make me wonder, because you're getting two of these potentially for Brendan Donovan. And if you missed it yesterday, we talked with the Mariners insider who told us like 2 of the top 10 prospects could potentially be in play for a guy like Brendan Donovan, including one of their pitching prospects that's borderline top 100 and probably one of their position players that's top 100. If you could get one of those for Alec Burleson, that's hard to ignore. And given where we know this team is probably going to be next year, tearing it down to the studs does not sound appetizing. It might be the best thing for you. And that would mean your core basically becomes J.J. Weatherholt, Ivan Herrera, and
Doyle.
And
then, like,
some of these guys they get in the
Ray
trade.
Rodriguez, maybe next year's first-round pick.
First-round pick.
Like if you get Montez, too, in this trade, you build around something like that. These pitching players, Liam Doyle, Quinn Matthews, potentially another pitching prospect.
And if you do that, you could pivot to the free agent market and maybe sign this guy that's coming over from the NPB. I don't know if you guys saw this. Jim Bowden on his piece today connecting a bunch of the free agents that still exist out there to specific teams. He had... I'm definitely going to mispronounce this. Kazuma Okamoto? Sure. That's what I'm going with.
You just got to say it fast and confidently,
Kazuma Okamoto.
There it is, see?
He played last year for the Giants. The Cardinals have had a history of signing players from that specific team in the NPB. He said his best matches for him are the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Pirates. So apparently thinks he's going to the NL Central.
God, I don't know if I want to be in that other two teams.
Now... He is like the second position player that people are talking about because Murakami is the 25-year-old lefty that hits for just crazy power, but swings and misses at everything. So he's the one that feels like it's like, oh man, his window closes on December 22nd. We're less than a week away. Nobody seems to know who he's interested in or who is interested in him. And he's got this, no pun intended, like a high upside, low floor type of a profile. This Okamoto, Alex, he's 29 years old. He's had really good power in his NPB career. He's a guy that I'm going to give you his home run totals from 2018 all the way through 2024. 33, 31, 31, 39, 30, 41, 27. So he's a consistent 30-ish home run producer in the NPB. That's not something you see a whole lot over there. He's got really solid power. It's not the same raw power as Murakami, but it's game power. Last year, he was hurt for a decent portion of the season, only played in 77 games, still hit 15 home runs and had an OPS nearing 1,000. I don't know, man. If you decided to trade a guy like Alec Burleson, you could replace him with Okamoto. He's a right-handed bat, which fits into your lineup pretty well, given how many lefties you have. He plays first base. You could just install him there. It sounds like he's going to get like a 3 to 4 year contract. If it works, great. You've either got a player that can be a part of your core similar to what you were hoping with for Alec Burleson, or you trade him. And if it doesn't, it sounds like he's going to be more of like a $10 to $15 million a year kind of player. It's not that bad. That's like, well, a lot of teams are paying for
Contreras.
Yeah, teams are paying this for guys that are just super utility players nowadays, or like platoon bats. I'm interested. I could see how you could convince yourself this is the right direction to go, T-Bone.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the signing, but to me, there'd have to be like two pillars that fall, and it would probably be you trade Contreras and Burleson, and then you go out and make this move. Because otherwise, like, he doesn't really fit your timing. Like you said, he's 29 years old. Now, he is in his prime, and you do he will get a shorter deal. So, like, you would have him for most of his prime on this contract.
Why can't you then flip him?
Well, that's the thing. Like, you could eventually get there. But, like, if what I think what the Cardinals are going to do, based on everything that seems to be reported where Burleson feels more as a untouchable than a guy that they are listening to, and they trade Contreras, all I'm doing is I'm sliding Burleson to first base. right? Then it frees up playing time for Newbar in a corner, so Newbar can regain some of his value if he's still here, coming off of his surgeries. Walker's getting a spot in a corner as well. I don't really have a spot for this guy. And third base, I would say, is probably for Gorman or Sajaci.
But I'm saying I'm talking about this in the scenario that we just presented with Burleson going elsewhere.
Yeah, I know. I think you do it there. I think you convince yourself you can do it. But I still would say no, because I think if you're trading Burleson, you're in full teardown mode. And when you do that, the reason you trade Burleson, one, the value's up there, as we're talking about, since the Cardinals are one of two teams that are willing to take on prospects, which teams are looking to get rid of. And two, you're doing it so you can get worse before you get better. And this guy would probably help you. I'm not saying he would replace complete production of an Alec Burleson and a Contreras.
Right, though, and he's only 2 years older.
But I think that's the problem. If you tear it down, I think you want to be a 100-loss plus team.
I don't think that this is going to really change your ability to beat.
I think he adds a win or two, a couple wins to your resume.
Sure, fine. You've got to. I mean, they're in the draft lottery system now, to where you don't have a 100% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, anyways. You can go from the third best odds to the number 1 pick. And let's be honest, like with Major League Baseball, a lot of times there isn't an obvious number 1 overall selection. If you're in the top 3, you got a pretty good shot of getting a good player. I don't know, man. If this guy changes my odds of going from 22% to 17% of the number 1 overall selection by signing him and getting a haul in return for Alec Burleson, another top 100 prospect, I think it's probably worth it. I hadn't even considered the possibility prior to seeing this from Jim Bowden. I think it's unlikely, but I think it's an interesting hypothetical, if nothing else.
I just don't know why it's got to be. Why can't it be Gorman? Why don't you ship out Gorman and keep Burleson?
This guy's more first base.
Yeah,
than
he
third.
plays first base. So where's
he
where's
could play
Burleson
third, but
playing
not
in that
really.
scenario?
I mean,
DH.
probably DH. Yeah,
Sure. I'm open. I've got no problem.
it's just it's a bad. And if he's got home run potential, what do teams typically want? They want guys who can hit the ball hard, right? Eugenio Suarez is a great example of it. I mean, if I could get 1 year or half a year of this guy who looks good. I mean, if I'm Heim, I'm just accumulating all of the assets I can and then looking to ship them out at the deadline, because it's going to be a bad year.
I'm good with it.
And if he's good, or if he's not good, then you move on from other pieces.
And whatever, it's 10 or 15 million bucks.
Yeah, you're in that,
like,
and it's a 1 or 2 year deal, I would imagine.
If he becomes a platoon bat at 10 to 15 million dollars, all right, there's a bunch of those out there, and you could just eat half of the contract moving on after the season or beyond that. Like, you're trading Wilson Contreras to get future assets. You're trading, in this scenario, Alec Burleson or Nolan Gorman to get future assets. And I'm bringing this guy in either for immediate return or for future returns. I like it. I like the idea, even though I hadn't really considered it previously. And it doesn't just have to be him. Could be somebody else that's in a similar kind of a market. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers coming up next. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Let's get to some of these right now from the text line. From the 314, guys, did you see J.P. Morosi mentioned today the Mariners would have to give up Young or Emerson in a Donovan trade, essentially one of their top two prospects? I did not see this.
Shannon said yesterday that Emerson's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would be surprised if either of those players were involved. I think that's what the Cardinals should be pushing for, though. Why wouldn't you? If you're the Cardinals, hey, man, tighten those screws. Keep tightening. Just keep tightening. And try to leverage the Mariners on whoever else is in this market, whether that be the San Francisco Giants, maybe the Boston Red Sox. It sounds as though Arizona is at least interested in potentially getting Alex Bregman. So could they surprisingly enter the sweepstakes for Brendan Donovan as well? I would be involving as many teams as possible to play them off of one another. So I don't think that they're likely, but if you're the Cardinals, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, and like if you're Seattle right now, you can hold firm on the, hey, no, we're not going to do that. But as Shannon told us yesterday, they feel they need to upgrade rather than going into the year and then looking for a second base upgrade. If Marte comes off the board and he does not go to Seattle now, you can really start to tighten those screws. I still don't think you're getting that top prospect of theirs. I think you're going to have to settle below that because I think they will hold the line there. But that's when you can really start to put pressure off. If you see Marte go, you see Lau go from Tampa Bay, now it's like, okay, Donovan's the only piece you got left that you can potentially try and acquire here this offseason.
At 314-399-9646, that's the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Alex, did you see the David Pagnotta report that, quote, players are waiting for deals to happen, end quote, at this point?
I didn't see this. I've seen a lot of stuff from Pagnotta, who surprisingly is going to join us at 1:30 later on today. Was the report that the Blues players or just players in general are waiting for trades? Because if it's players in general, that makes sense. I mean, that's what the roster freeze is there for. I think players know that until that roster freeze, especially if my team is bad, there's a chance some of us can go. And it would make sense if Blues players are waiting for a trade because it's been out there for the longest time. They know they're struggling. They know it's been 4 straight years. And I think they realize, I would have to imagine Doug Armstrong has addressed the players at some point throughout these struggles, and now it's just a matter of when, not if. And unfortunately, I just don't know how many teams are willing to pay the price now before the roster freeze.
From the 314, hate to be negative, but who do we think will be the first Blue to be traded?
Probably, I want to say Falk, but he's got no trade decision. So does Shen. So does Bennington. I would say probably either Justin Falk or Oscar Sundqvist.
I would say Falk. I think there's going to be a lot of value for him. Right shot defenseman who's playing very well, by the way, contributing offensively too. And it's, yes, he's got no trade protection, but I think it's only 15 teams. So there's a chance there's some teams that are competitive that aren't on his list to where they don't even have to go to him to make a deal happen.
Alexei Toropchenko will be my guess.
Man, you just love trading fourth liners away, don't you?
Because I think I'm trying to, I look at this sometimes as who is, and this is going to sound bad, who is the easiest to replace with your internal options. And I think you have guys that can play that fourth line wing. I don't know if you have other players that can immediately step into that second pair defensively to replace what Justin Falk does for you. I don't know that you have guys that can easily replace, Shin, Suter, even an Oscar Sundqvist on that fourth line center. Maybe you could argue Bukestad, when he returns, could be that for you technically, but I think they play it a little bit differently. So I'll go Alexei Toropchenko.
Yeah,
the first one.
I think Sundqvist would probably be my bet because teams want centermen. And I think when Bukestad's healthy, he could fill in that role for you. I think if Shen and Falk get traded, I don't believe Jordan Bennington's going to get moved. If Shen and Falk get traded, it's going to be closer to the trade deadline.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers. We got a lot of people that said this. We didn't mention his name in the last segment, talking about the core. Guys, what about Mason Wynn? Why is he not a core piece? I would include him in my core personally. I know, T-Bone, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on this, but it was just a slip of the mind. Yeah, I would agree with that. Mason Wynn would also be part of my core.
Yeah, I think that's where the Cardinals are leaning. Cost control shortstop. If there's another level to Wynn's game, which I still think there might be, then yeah, he will move himself into the core. That's why I'm hesitant to put him in there. I think he's like a league average shortstop. And if that's the case, I don't know that I would put that guy in a core.
Offensively.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, offensively. Defensively, I mean, he's a stud defensively, as you saw this year. But if he's just league average offensively, I don't know if I can put that guy in my core.
All right, last one here from the 314. Guys, where do you think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be playing next year after he was officially benched by the Miami Dolphins? Man, this is a big one. He's got like $50 million in dead money next year if they decide to release him.
I saw someone mention today they think he's going to do he's going to be forced to do the Kirk Cousins route. Where it is, you got to stick with your team and you're the backup. Well, Miami does something.
I wonder if Pittsburgh goes after him.
Oh, man.
Wouldn't that be something?
He
can't play in the cold, though.
That's what I'm not kidding. I was going to say that. I would not sign him if I'm Pittsburgh because of the cold weather thing.
Is he cheaper than Daniel Jones is going to cost?
I mean, it's the same thing where, like, he's going to make nothing for his next team, most likely, because he has so much money paid to him by the other. I think it'll be a similar situation to what Daniel Jones was when he ended up with the Vikings. I could see Minnesota maybe being a spot for him.
Yeah.
You're inside while you're there. You're playing for a great head coach. He has a competition next year between he and J.J. McCarthy. It's cheap. It's a veteran. I could see that maybe being a landing
spot. How about
spot
T-Bone's Rams?
No.
Get somebody for Grandpa Stafford.
Stafford's going to play next year, I think, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, he'll need more epidurals before he plays.
I'll go
He
Minnesota.
didn't have a back injury.
That'll be my landing spot. And I'm sure that
I actually love the Minnesota
our guy
one.
Marshy would be very excited about it.
Oh, I didn't.
I mean, what else are they going to do, guys?
It's better than
I think
JJ.
McCarthy looked fine their last contest. Like, I kind of wonder if he's starting to kind of process things now.
I'll believe it when
Now,
I
would
see it.
still bring in a veteran, to be clear. Like, I like the plan that BK's talking about. Bring in Tua, have a competition, see who ends up winning it. But I wouldn't just give up on McCarthy just yet.
Atlanta's another spot if they decide to move on from Kirk Cousins next year. I mean, they're going to need somebody to play quarterback for them. New Orleans, if they don't get a quarterback.
They need a QB.
Maybe. In all seriousness, maybe.
Oof.
Yeah,
And it won't be cold. It won't be cold early in the year when Mahomes comes back.
You know what? That's probably the landing spot. In all seriousness, if he's willing to take on a backup role, that would be a good one.
He could be fine in an Andy Reid offense for 4 weeks?
We've seen this so many times where highly touted quarterbacks go on to have really successful and lucrative backup quarterback careers. And I think that could be the kind of thing you see. That's a really good option. Vegas is another one where I don't know what they're going to do next year at the quarterback position, but they're going to have somebody.
They better get a coach before they get the quarterback.
No doubt. All right, in 15 minutes, college football coaches seem to be higher on this team to win the title than consensus. Alex and T-Bone have not read this article yet. I'm curious who their guess is on that team. We'll get into that coming up in about 15 minutes. But next, is Doug Armstrong pivoting to an even younger core than what we previously expected? We'll read you some of the quotes that came out of yesterday next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's off of Chippewa, the famous frozen custard destination that has been a tradition since 1926. And it's got the frozen custard serving the community, unmatched quality service, and hometown pride for generations. And plus, it's the holiday season, which means there's still time for you to get out and check out that Christmas tree parking lot over at Ted Drew's. Now, supplies last on this, so it might be starting to wear thin. I went by last week. My wife and I drove past. Saw some of them out there as well, but they got a huge selection of premium Christmas trees. On top of that, lush holiday greenery with handmade wreaths, garland, mistletoe, and so much more. So again, it's while supplies last, so don't wait any longer. Make sure you get over there and check it out. Plus, they got the gift shop across the parking lot where you can go through Ted Drew's apparel, Ted Drew's souvenir, Ted Drew's gift cards. So if you're looking to get that last-minute Christmas shopping done, Ted Drew's is the perfect place for you. They also got new flavors if you want to check out. They got a coffee float with a Ted Drew's vanilla custard, and you can also make that coffee flavored, or you can make it hot chocolate flavored, whatever you like. Buy it in bulk, bring it home, stuff it in the freezer for all the holiday parties. So get on out there and celebrate the holidays at Ted Drew's, where tradition tastes great and the holidays feel right at home.
Doug Armstrong sat down with some of the writers yesterday. JR was in on that conversation. You can read his article up on The Athletic today, breaking down what exactly Doug Armstrong had to say. You can also hear our conversation with Jeremy Rutherford from yesterday. He was just coming out of that convo with Doug Armstrong. You can do that on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, or the free 101 ESPN app. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
In part of that conversation, Doug Armstrong said the following, Alex: "We would like to add to the group of players that include Jake Neighbors, Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, Logan Mailloux, Joel Hofer. I'm not saying those guys are all core players, but there's an age group that you would like to add into that. But to move anyone that could bring you a first-round pick, that's likely to a team that has playoff aspirations, and that's a pick that's somewhere from 18 to 31. And historically, that shows those guys click in the league 2, 3, maybe 4 years later. Well, that doesn't do that group that I'm talking about a whole lot of good, because then they'll be aged out. But it could be an asset that you use at a later date to get a player that also is in that age group. So we have to be open to a little bit of everything, meaning if it's a pick, we'll take that pick and do something with it at the draft. Our goal would be, if we acquire those things, they have a name attached to them now and not a draft pick number," he later stated. But that draft pick number could eventually have a name attached to it.
A great example is what Utah did last year's 2 drafts ago when they traded a couple of first-round picks for Mikhail Sergachev. They got a young top-pair defenseman who's eating 23 minutes a night for him.
So I found it interesting, Alex, that he said, "We would like to add to our core group of players that includes Neighbors, Holloway, Broberg, Mailloux, Hofer." That is a different core than what we have traditionally talked about, which was more the Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Colton Parayko would be added into that mix as well, Jordan Bennington, the guys that are kind of in that like 27 to 30-ish range. Are they shifting their core?
I think so. Maybe it was the slip of the tongue and he just, for some reason, wasn't thinking Robert Thomas, but I don't know how you don't think Robert Thomas when he's making $8 million. Maybe it's also, these guys are going to be here, so I don't need to say they're a part of the core. These are the guys we're going to be building around. I do think there's got to be some of this to the fact that, look, it's been 4 years with these guys as the core, the future, and it's underperformed every single year, minus a 12-game stretch that they had at the end of the season. The problem with all of this is you can't shift away from this core because there's no trade clauses attached to it. But, when you look at a Neighbors who's 23, Dylan Holloway who's 24, my assumption is Snuggerud should be in this as well, who's 21 years old, Mailloux who's 22, Broberg who is 24. That's what he's looking at. Why it's odd that he doesn't say Thomas and Kyrou is because that's 26 and 27. They're in the same age frame. I have to imagine some of this, and again, tinfoil theory on my end, some of this is frustration on their end that these players have not developed to the level that they needed them to. So now we're going to start looking at the next wave. And the next wave is going to be the names that they mentioned and also the Carbonneau and Adam Jiricek and Otto Stenberg. Whatever they do this offseason, you're starting to look at guys who are now 22, 23, 24 that are going to get a taste of the NHL and build with Mailloux and all these others rather than going after guys who are 27, 28 years old.
So they're in the Cardinals timeline?
Yeah.
Sure sounds like it.
But you're stuck with 3 guys on long-term deals with no trade clauses.
Because when I hear that what you just said, that is what the Cardinals are doing with Brendan Donovan. Where he is the Robert Thomas of this group, or he is the Jordan Kyrou of this group. And they're looking at it and they're like, man, we need to build around Mason Wynn. We need to build around Ivan Herrera. We need to build around J.J. Weatherholtz. These guys are 21, 22, 23 years old. Donnie, with your 2 years left on your deal at 29, it doesn't fit our core any longer.
I think they're looking for guys like Logan Mailloux, who's 22 years old, who's a former first-round pick, has a lot of expectations, but he's raw at the NHL level. Like, you're in, it sounds like, are back in that development stage of this, to where, look, these guys are here for now. We don't know what's going to happen. Frankly, you're not making moves with these guys in season. It's going to have to be an off-season if they get to that point. You've been here for 4 years and we're having the same issues. So now we're going to start looking at what the next wave looks like, because they're the ones that are going to be here long-term, even though you are tied up long-term. These are the guys that we believe are going to bring the next wave in. And it's just really odd. Like, I'm saying this and I'm confusing myself because I've never heard of a transition of a wave of a core in the midst of that core being the ones that are here and now.
This is what I talked about whenever they went into a rebuild. I said it can become a perpetual rebuild. Look at the Buffalo Sabres. Now, you're not as bad as they were. I guess right now you kind of are. But you haven't been as bad as the Sabres have been in the past. But that's what happens. Like Chicago White Sox are an example of this in baseball. The rebuild becomes another rebuild, which goes into another rebuild. And you just keep recycling these cores and you keep saying, this is the next one. And then you're like, wait, nope, they didn't live up to expectations. All right, trade them to get the next core. Oh, nope, that one didn't work either. It can become a fruitless exercise very quickly. A little bit of a pivot here. Frank Saravalli reporting the Fenway Sports Group has reached an agreement to sell the Penguins to the Hoffman family, a Chicago-based investment group led by David Hoffman. An official announcement is expected in the coming days. I know the Fenway Sports Group has been talking about potentially disinvesting in their sports enterprises. They aren't exactly beloved in the Boston market. The Penguins are another one of those. They bought them a while ago now, Alex. I wonder what this means for the Penguins long term. Because they are a team that has kind of flirted in the past with, do we just completely overhaul this thing the way that the Blues are talking about right now? They have that Sidney Crosby guy. They've been okay this season, but they're in a really difficult division to win. Do you think this changes anything for the Penguins and their trajectory? If I'm not mistaken,
I think Mario Lemieux is still a partial owner of the Penguins as well, or maybe he's a partial investor. I'm not sure. He's tied to it somehow.
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't think Crosby wants to go anywhere. I think they probably said, like, hey, man, what do you want to do? But until Crosby says, I want out, I don't think they're going to do anything. I mean, like, yes, they've been okay this season, but
You're just on the outside looking in of a playoff spot right now.
And that's just the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's all combusted. I mean, the 9th play or the 15th place team in the Eastern Conference is 4 points out of a playoff spot. So kind of like what the Blues are right now in the West. Until Sidney Crosby says, I'm done, I want out, I think Pittsburgh continues to try and recycle it because Malkin says he's not going anywhere. Letang says he's not going anywhere. There's nothing you could really do other than try and compete. Yeah, well, difference is one of these guys is like literally a legend in the game.
By the way, Erik Karlsson this year in 32 games has 25 points, and he's a +1.
Just a +1?
That's not a positive, man.
No, it is literally. He's in the positive.
No, that means he's been on the ice for 25 points, and he is only a +1.
Yeah, that's a plus.
On another positive, Connor McDavid has 20 points in 7 games. Robert Thomas has 23 in 34 games.
McDavid's only played 7
games. McDavid
games.
has 20 points
in his last 7 games, yeah.
See, that's a number one center.
Well, that's
one of
the greatest players in the history of the game.
He's legitimately putting up Wayne Gretzky-esque numbers.
Have you seen what Nathan McKinnon is doing this year?
Yeah, he's on pace for 70 goals.
My wife has all of these bonus bets that she's doing. So last night she's just on her phone toggling around, and she's like, man, Nathan McKinnon scores a lot of goals. I'm like, yeah, he does. She's like, I'm going to bet on him to score a goal.
Get it, Kara.
Okay, cool.
Get it, Kara.
28 goals, 58 points in 33 games.
29.
Just saying them out loud feels
He's on pace for 70. I mean, he's 29 years old. Like, there was a piece out that they dropped, and I think this was on The Athletic, but it was basically talking to Nathan McKinnon saying, like, I feel like I'm just hitting my prime and I have a lot more hockey in me.
Have you seen what Martin Necas is doing?
Well, I'm seeing he's trying to push pucks into the net like he did last night.
14 goals and 45 points in 33 games. It turns out it's really helpful to play with that Nathan McKinnon guy. He's on pace for 112 points this year.
Yeah,
By the way, you get a superstar. We were talking about the rebuild that becomes the rebuild. You know how the rebuild stops? You get the superstar.
Yeah, I mean,
right? Like, there's never been a rebuild where you develop a superstar and then it doesn't work.
Also, Martin Necas is what I'm talking about with Robert Thomas.
Yeah.
When's Robert Thomas going to do this?
What Martin Necas is doing?
Help somebody else become Martin Necas.
Yeah.
If you're a superstar, what happens is because somebody else is on your line, their production boosts.
Yeah, I talk about you lifting.
That's what happens.
We talk about you lifting a guy's production rather than what I hear with Robert Thomas all the time. Well, he doesn't have the guys with him.
Exactly.
No, Robert Thomas would turn the guys with him into the guys that we're talking about, like Necas.
Martin Necas' career high in points prior to this season, again, setting aside last year, before playing with Colorado, his career high was 71 points. Martin Necas is not that new to the NHL.
But last year he was Now, he's not doing what he's doing this year, but last year before he was traded to Colorado, he had 55 points in 49 games.
He was a very good, very productive player. And then this year, he has taken that and is not just a very good, very productive player. He's on pace for 115 points and a plus 80.
Well, I was just going to say, you want to brag about a plus-minus. Don't look at Erik Karlsson. Look at him, who's a plus 32 with 45 points.
Yeah, his career high prior to this year, he had one season in 2021. He was a plus 25 in 53 games. That's ridiculous. But beyond that, he was a plus 5. That's the best of his career otherwise.
T-Bone nailed it. Like, you want to stop, retool, or rebuild, or whatever, you nail a draft pick.
Get Macklin celebrating.
Get Macklin celebrating. Guys, San Jose's not talking about rebuilding anymore. San Jose's like, cool, we got our assets. Now, there's rumors that they're going to actually trade away pieces still because they're not satisfied with where they're at. And why wouldn't you be? Like, sure, ship out a dude who's 27, 28 years old to go get another young piece for your team. But like Utah got Logan Cooley, and they're like, oh, okay, we got the dude. That's what we need. Now, they still got goaltending issues, and I'll stand on my high horse on that as they continue to struggle this season. But yeah, you nailed the draft pick. You got to first get a top 5 pick or maybe a number 1 overall pick.
Mission accomplished.
Hopefully mission accomplished. I'm still very worried that at some point they're going to rattle off 7 in a row and be like, stop it.
Got to get to 3 first.
You got to nail that. Like, you know how Edmonton continued to be in the rebuild? They drafted Taylor Hall. They drafted Nugent Hopkins. They drafted Nail Yakupov. They drafted Adam Larson. At some point, you got to get the Connor McDavid, the Leon Draisaitl, and say, okay, now we're ready to run.
I'll add this too real quick because I know we got to get to break. You don't have to just draft them either, right? When you're in a rebuild, we can talk about this as the Cardinals as well. This is going to hold up for the Blues when they tear it down, potentially. You just got to get them. I don't care how you get them. You can either draft him, you can sign him, you can trade for him. You've just got to find the guy so it ends the rebuild.
Look at Boston. Boston was going into a rebuild. And what happened? They found Morgan Geekie.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It is 12:21. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. We'll talk to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. We had a lot of conversation about the Blues there. It's all good. I think Kerbs will understand. But next, college football coaches are higher on this team to win the national title than consensus. I'm curious who you guys think that team would be. We'll get your guesses. I'll give you the answer next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here in Missouri. Your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. So go over there. Maybe you got an idea for a Blues bet tonight. Right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving away a 50% profit boost on any bet tonight on the Blues versus the Winnipeg Jets. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app and use my code Tanner. That's code Tanner as new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code Tanner. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
In about 10 minutes, we'll talk to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, here on BK and Ferrario. I was reading a piece over on The Athletic. It's from one of my favorite college football writers, Bruce Feldman, Alex. He talks to coaches and personnel people across college football to find out how they view this year's college football playoff. I love these pieces because it gives you an idea of the people that are actually involved in this sport. How do they view the teams compared to what we see on the outside looking in? So the first question they asked, it's an obvious one. Who's going to win it all? Which team's actually going to win the national championship this year? Who would you guess? The one team got 50% of the vote. They were the team that actually led this vote. Who do you think that team was?
Mine would be Indiana.
I would say either Indiana or Ohio State. I would lean Ohio State because everybody seems to love them inside
Ohio
the
State
industry.
was 2 at
so
42%.
It's Indiana.
Indiana was tied for 3rd at 4%.
Is this,
so Georgia?
No, I think it's Texas
James
Tech.
Madison.
Texas Tech did not receive a vote.
That was a stupid guess, man.
I'm sorry.
It's James Madison.
They did not receive a vote.
It's Georgia.
We'll get to them here in a minute.
It's Georgia.
Georgia got
Bulldogs.
50% of the vote.
I can't make a Bulldog song.
One of the SEC
That's not
defensive coordinators that he talked to said Georgia looks the cleanest to me. They've been getting better as the season's gone along. They're going to stop the run. They're going to find your weaknesses, and they're good at using those weaknesses against you. Somebody else said, I don't think there's really anybody that's great this season. Nobody's as good as Alabama or Georgia were when they won it. Nobody's even as good as Ohio State was last year. But Georgia's offensive line has really matured, and they're a team that's taken a jump from the beginning of the season. The quarterback's a winner. Defensively, they can play big. They can match up with you. They're really good, and they're battle-tested. So that was the explanation. Georgia seems to be the team that people inside of the sport are much higher than us on the outside looking in. How does that hit you when you hear, like, the inside people within college football believe Georgia is the team that's going to win it all?
That the SEC is still superior? I mean, like, I would disagree. I mean, I think Indiana would be the team that I would put all of my money in, but I'll be 100% honest. I haven't watched every single Indiana game this season, so I don't know how.
Watching them kick the crap out of Illinois.
Well, that one I did watch.
They look great in person.
That one I got my popcorn ready for, but I think what that tells me is everybody believes the SEC is significantly better than all of the other teams.
It is interesting, man. You look at it, their resume is pretty impressive. They went on the road, they beat Auburn. They had a home game against Ole Miss, beat them. Home game against Texas, beat them. Home game, or neutral site technically, against Georgia Tech, beat them. Just absolutely destroyed Alabama in the SEC championship game. Defense has really come around. Over the last 4 weeks, they've given up 10, 3, 9, and 7 points total in those respective games. I get it. I understand the case to be made here. I personally still lean Ohio State or Indiana. Those would be my 2 top contenders, but I found it to be really interesting that coaches view it differently. Who do you guys think is the biggest fraud in the field? What do you think was the number one answer to that question?
Texas A&M.
No.
See, I'm thinking Oklahoma.
Texas A&M was not. Oklahoma got 4% of the vote.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss number 1,
Yeah,
29%.
The more I thought, I was like, their coach left, so they've got to be the biggest
Not just
fraud.
their coach, their offensive mindset
Group
left.
of 5 head coach said of Ole Miss, they've had so many distractions with Lane Kiffin leaving. Oklahoma's probably their only good win so far on the season as well. Which team is the biggest sleeper in the field? Who do you think was the number 1 vote getter there?
Madison.
They did not get a vote.
I think Tech. I'm surprised Tech would not because everybody in the industry seems to love Texas Tech.
Texas Tech was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on this list. 4% of the vote.
Tulane?
Nope, didn't get a vote.
Would it be A&M?
Bama? Is it Bama?
Nope, they were 4th. One team got 21% of the vote. There were a few of them, though, that it was split upon. Number 1 is Miami. 21%.
The hell out of
After
here.
that, Oregon and Oklahoma at 17%. Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M tied for 5th at 13%.
It's just going to reiterate what I was thinking. Man, these college coaches don't know what they're talking about.
What percent of coaches do you think said that there is a path for one of the group of 5 teams, either Tulane or James Madison, to win a game?
Nah, I'm still sticking with 0. I'm sticking with 0. No way
What
did any
percent
of
of
them
them
say
said that James Madison or Tulane can just simply win a game.
I'll say one person said it.
12%.
Oh, what?
12%
How many is that?
Again, this is still there. Again, I reiterate, these coaches don't know what they're talking about.
Who do you think will pull off an upset? The number one response was Miami. Goes back to them being a sleeper team. 25%, though. 1 in 4 coaches said nobody's going to pull off an upset in the college football playoff first round. And then which team would you least like to play? I found that to be a really interesting way to frame this question. 46% of the coaches said Georgia.
I figured it'd be Georgia if they were the number one team.
Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, Indiana 3, Miami at number 4.
Wait, this Miami
getting a lot of love.
I'm so done with the Miami love.
Yeah, I would be more afraid of A&M than I would be of Miami.
Last thing here, who do you think is the best coach in the playoff? Who do you guys think they said?
I would say Kirby.
Kirby's number 1.
Smart.
Who do you think is number
Cignetti.
2? Cignetti, number 2 at 38%.
Please tell me Ryan Day was not 3.
Dan Lanning was 3.
Yes.
Joey McGuire, the Texas Tech head coach, is 4. 0 votes for Ryan.
Take that, Ryan Day.
0 votes for the guy
won a
that
title
won the
last
national
year.
title last year, and as of today,
Fluke
is the favorite to win the national title this year.
Ouch.
Could potentially go back to back, and none of his peers think he's the best coach in the field. Not a one of them.
Goes to show you how much of a juggernaut that Ohio State program is then. If he's not that good a coach according to his peers.
Maybe I should put a bet down on Georgia. It's 6-1. Apparently,
I kind of like it. I
think so. That's a good bet.
I think it's a little SEC bias from coaches.
I think that's fair.
Because I think the SEC's good, and I think
Kirby bias in general. Like,
yeah,
hey, I think he's the
Kirby's
best coach.
a hell of a football coach.
They've got a really good defense. I don't think anybody's great. I trust that team to do it.
I had fears on their defense. It has started to play better, but I also know I still think they could get back to what they were early on in the season, which was not that great of a defense. I think Indiana, Ohio State are the better teams. Like the eye test, I think matches that too.
An interesting piece over there on The Athletic from Bruce Feldman. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll go ahead and get into the Juncture Urban next. Our guy Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us here on BK and Ferrario.
Hey, I don't know if your house or your apartment is like my house. And that is, I like it kept right at 71 degrees. I don't care if it's the dead heat of the summer or the cold chill of the winter. I set that furnace or the air conditioner at 71, and I know if somebody moves it to 72 or even a little bit lower. And you know why I can rely on it? Because Classic Air Care helps me take care of that unit, and especially during the winter. I have them out to the house. They make sure that it's all maintained because I travel a lot. I have to have peace of mind that it's working, and I know that the family is comfortable and warm. And if something does go wrong, because machines do break down, I know I can count on them to get there quickly. They can get to you within 24 hours. They got 100 vans on the road, and you've seen the vans. They're the orange ones with the penguin on it. That's Classic Air Care. They got a 4.8 Google rating for a reason, because their customer service is that doggone good and reliable. That's why I trust them to take care of my house. You can trust them, too. If something goes wrong or you need some maintenance on your unit at home, give them a buzz. Book an appointment online. It's Classic Air Care. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues will be back in action tonight, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale as the Blues take on the Winnipeg Jets. And the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Puka Nacua was on his stream recently and said, quote, "The refs are the worst. These guys are lawyers. They want to be on TV too. You don't think they're texting their friends in the group chat like, yo, you saw me on Sunday Night Football. It wasn't PI, but I went ahead and called it."
What an idiot.
That is certainly a choice of what you could do while streaming live. All right, we go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline, a gentleman that has been critical a time or two in his career of those referees. It's Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. Joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. Curbs, appreciate the time as always, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, BK. How are you?
Doing really well. Blues have a new look lineup tonight. They're going to have a couple of new guys in there with Otto Stenberg playing against Winnipeg. They also claimed somebody off of waivers yesterday that's expected to be a part of the lineup. But the part that I wanted to ask you about, Curbs, is Joel Hofer getting his third consecutive start in net potentially for the Blues tonight. What do you think of the decision?
Well, you know what? It's an interesting one, and I did talk to Jim Montgomery about this after the media scrum today. So it'll be the first time in his NHL career that he will have played in 5 consecutive games, right? And not just started, but played in. And you know what? Last season, he didn't even start consecutive games. Like, forget back-to-back, on a scenario, but just start 2 games in a row all of last year. So the scenario for Joel is this. When you're a young goaltender that's kind of on the up and coming, and one of the things that David Alexander really is they try to do, and he's done this with all his goaltenders, is you continue the growth and the development, right? Well, when you don't have a good game, and I think it's fair to say that Joel did not have a good game in the last game against Nashville, and how do you respond to it? Well, typically, if you're the backup goaltender, you don't get a chance to respond to it, right? You typically then go back to the bench, and then the starting goaltender comes in. Well, because it's a back-to-back scenario here, right, and Joel Hofer saw the Rangers, I think, and plus it's his hometown team tonight against the Winnipeg Jets, and he's had 5 pretty solid starts against Winnipeg in his career. I think that they look at it and they say this is an opportunity to continue his progression, knowing we're going to have to use both goaltenders anyway. And so I expect Joel tonight and then Bennington tomorrow against the Rangers. And the way to look at it is really a developmental, giving him a chance to get back in there now and see how you respond after a game where you weren't as good as you needed to be.
Kerbs, because of their struggles, do you think that this team's in that development stage in terms of letting some of these guys figure it out as they move forward?
Well, yeah. Listen, this team could be in a top 3 spot in the division, and I think I'd still answer that, Alex, with a yes. I mean, look, the only way I'm going to go back to that second period against Nashville, right? A wraparound goal, that goes in 5-hole on Joe Hofer. That's a save he typically makes. Pressure on a young player that's played 25 games in the NHL in Dvorsky, and he backhands the puck up over the glass, right? Speed comes right down the middle. Another young player in Logan Mailloux grabs a hold of the guy in front of the net, draws a holding penalty, right? Those are young mistakes made by young players, and the only way you learn and grow from them is you've got to be able to make them. And so in this case, it cost you a second period in the end with a power play goal against and then a soft goal, and things unravel on you. That happens when you've got a young team. But, yeah, look, Alex, these guys have to play. They've got to go through those situations. They've got to have those up and downs if they're going to get better and if they're going to get you the consistent play that you need then to be a really good team in the league. And there just hasn't been enough production, I think, from the top guys in the lineup on both the front end and the back end to kind of hide some of those other mistakes right now, and that's just kind of the way it is.
We're talking to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs, if there was a bright spot from the game the other night, it was Dalibor Dvorsky putting some production behind his overall performance. What have you seen from game 1 with Dvorsky to where he is today in his development process?
You're seeing somebody that has taken now a lot of face-offs against some top guys. Saw someone that was on the receiving end of a master class from Ryan O'Reilly in the last game, right? It's a hard position to come in as a young player and be really, really good. Yeah, there's the anomalies, there's the superstars, the generational players that can do it. I don't think you have found him on the wrong side of the puck too many times. The hockey IQ that we're seeing from the young players that the Blues have drafted, and one of the reasons they drafted him, you're seeing it in these games, and it's starting to come. And then, look, that was his first even strength goal of the season in the last game, right? So to be able to show, you're seeing the shot, and this just comes with time and figuring out guys around the league. I talked to Robert Thomas before the game in Nashville about some of the differences between what he experienced coming in as a centerman, but they played him on the wing for the first couple of years, versus what Dvorsky is. And the learning curve that Robert had was still pretty immense in how to take face-offs, how you learn, things like that. And Dvorsky's getting it all now, just drinking from a fire hose. So yeah, I think you're seeing some calm, you're seeing some poise, and I also think you're seeing some confidence. And something that you don't see on the ice, guys, like they've got Otto Stenberg sitting next to him in a locker, right? These guys, saw each other a little bit down in Springfield earlier this year, right? You're talking just the confidence in the room. The media comes over, and there's some joking with Dvorsky, confident in his English to share his ideas, share some thoughts, and you're seeing the all-around him getting more and more comfortable, I think, there, BK.
So, Kerbs, I'm going to leave this question open-ended because Doug Armstrong spoke with JR, Matt DeFranks, Lou Korak yesterday, and I know you have read the articles since then. What was your biggest takeaway from reading through Doug Armstrong's comments?
Well, I think and having talked to Doug too, I think there was surprise at where the team was. A surprise that they didn't really take that next step coming out of the gate, and that really has slowed things down. And then, as he has said, Jim Montgomery brings up something that's wrong. You see him work on it at practice. You see it fixed in the game, and then something else breaks. And they just haven't been able to catch their breath or catch up to it. So what I took away from Doug is I think there's still a window for this team to get some traction, but it's something that's been very consistent with him all the way through it since he's been general manager. It's up to the players to tell Doug what direction he's going to go with trades and with things like that. I think it's clear that he said, look, when your team's this way, pretty much nobody's untouchable. I think you're going to take a call on anybody that somebody wants to make an offer because maybe somebody makes you an offer you can't refuse, and then I think he once again has put it on the players. And the thing of it is, he knows he's got coaching. It's the same thing that happened when he brought Ken Hitchcock in. I know I got a good coach. This one's on the players. So thought once again a very honest approach from Doug Armstrong, very straightforward, making it clear we're not going to sell guys for 50 cents on the dollar just to sell them, right? But I also think guys, when you go out and you take a chance on a Jonathan Berggren, who they pick up from Detroit, second-round pick, 12 goals last season. Here's a chance who was just having a hard time finding his way in the lineup with Detroit, and that team's in a playoff spot right now. He gets a second chance here. There's a huge opportunity for him to earn a spot here and take somebody's job. To me, it also tells me that the Blues weren't quite ready to just call up Kaskamaki, Stenberg, turn this over to the young guys and see how it goes. It still means they're trying to put players into places where this team can compete.
Curbs, last question that I've got for you. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. We saw Philip Forsberg with a hat trick against the Blues the other night. Before that, we saw, I believe it was Steven Stamkos with, 4 goals against the Blues as well. I am curious, what's the best performance that you've seen against the Blues so far this season? And that could be production-wise or just a guy that you left the game and you're like, I can't believe how good that player was on the ice tonight.
Good question here. Oh boy, I'm gonna fumble on this one.
I'll give you a second real quick, Curbs, because one of the reasons that I'm bringing this up is last year, I remember after the Blues played against Macklin Celebrini for the first time, we came on the air the next day and I was like, that guy didn't play he didn't have 5 goals or anything against the Blues. That guy's amazing.
Mine this year was Logan Cooley. They played the first time against Utah. I mean, he had, Curbs, 3 goals in the first period, 4 goals overall in that game. I saw that, and I'm like, wow, Utah finally found that number 1 center.
Yeah. You know what? The one for me, guys, that I look at it is, I'm telling you, I've seen an immense jump forward with Connor Bedard. Thought that game, the game that he played against the Blues when the Blackhawks, put up 8, right? And that scenario there. And then I thought he really played another strong game, even though the Blues won that game. I think Connor Bedard took a big-time step forward.
Agreed.
This year. I actually, the other one, too, and it wasn't because I think he got 3 points, but I don't think it was the points. It was after missing the time that he missed. And when his team needed it, man, Pasternak came in against the Blues in that first game back and just showed why he's an absolute stud. That's another one that jumps off the page at me.
Yeah, guys,
it's a good one.
Really freaking good. Yeah. A couple of texters are saying that Kiefer Sherwood game, pretty impressive.
Hey, Kiefer Sherwood's going to warrant a first-round pick for Vancouver.
Yeah, I get that one, and I always love me some Kiefer Sherwood because he's a Miami of Ohio guy, right? But that's no. Sometimes guys are going to have some games, but I mean, and even the Stamkos one, man, did we
just say it. It didn't hit you the same way. You don't have to dance around it, man.
Yeah, we're an honest show here, Curbs.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing.
Curbs is like, no, that was not on the same level as David Pasternak coming in and dominating.
5 of the guys' 13 goals this season came against the Blues, so you can say it, Curbs. It's okay. Hey, Curbs, by the way, before we let you go, just in case, because I know you love my nicknames, just in case Sundqvist, Berggren, and Stenberg end up together, you can call it How Sweet It Is.
Jeez, Alex. You know what?
I'll use it on pregame.
It's amazing
By the way, it's
to me
Jonathan,
after all these years.
Curbs.
Like, what's that?
Jonathan.
Curbs is fluent in BK's fluent in Swedish.
No, just
we're going to Americanize that one a little bit. But it's amazing to me after all these years. Alex, you're on the air. We're trying to. Players have to get better. You accept how you haven't gotten better at that over the years.
I'd argue
actually boggles the mind.
I'd argue
it boggles the mind.
I'd argue I hit my peak back in 2017 with Schwarzenko, and it's just gone south from there.
Hey, that speaks
argue
to how
that
bad
the
they've
peak
been.
was never in sight.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
I'll argue that the peak was never in view.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy.
I'm using the Hubble telescope, and I ain't seeing it.
All right, Curbs. Next week we're off. We're basically off the next 2 weeks. Our executive producer Mike Ryder's been fantastic. We're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of each of the next 2 weeks. So the next time that we're scheduled to talk with you is January the 7th.
Hey.
So I'll go ahead and say this right now. First of all, very Merry Christmas to you and yours. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We appreciate everything that you have done for our show in the year 2025. We have had a lot of success as a show, and a lot of that is at least in part because of how good that you and the Blues have been to us. So thanks for everything, man, and we'll talk with you as we get into the new year.
Always, guys, have a great holiday season. Merry Christmas to everybody. We've got another couple home games to go, and then we'll head off into the holiday with you. But keep up the great work, the care you guys take covering the game, coming down to the arena, doing shows. You guys get great insight because you're in the locker rooms as well and being out at Centene. So from a team standpoint, we appreciate the effort that you guys put in as well. So have a great holiday season, guys, and hopefully we'll have some Blues wins to talk about in early January.
Absolutely. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday when we're on here on BK and Ferrario. Appreciate his time as always. Blues back in action this evening. You'll hear Curbs on the call. Puck drop for that one at 7. Alex has pregame coverage on your home of the Blues 101 ESPN starting tonight at 6.
He's crazy. My nicknames are awesome. Schwarzenko took the city by storm back in 2017.
Text line, Mahomes long body. Off the next 2 Thursdays, man, I might actually have a chance to beat the Blues the next 2 weeks. We will play Beat the Blues, right? Over the next couple of weeks. We're just going to do it, I think, on Tuesdays over the next couple of weeks. So a little bit of a programming note there. Beat the Blues will be on Tuesday each of the next 2 weeks since we've got the holidays that we're going to kind of be working around. Alex will still be working next.
I think it's only one of those days.
Let's see here.
The Friday.
Yeah, Friday the 2nd against the Vegas Golden Knights. But otherwise, you actually get some time off.
Oh, man.
I'm hanging out with little man.
Wednesday on the 31st, I have a hockey game.
You want to hang out, your girls and Luca, we could go hang out somewhere together during the days? I'm going to be the daddy daycare for a couple of days. So you want to do that?
No. We don't.
We can meet in St. Charles.
Well, absolutely not. Yeah, we can meet in Cravoy Bluffs. Come on down to my neck of the woods. Driving to St. Charles with 3 kids. You got 1. Yeah. You know how long it takes me to put kids in the car? Yeah.
Buddy, I do.
No, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. It takes me the amount of time to get to St. Charles just to get all 3 kids in the damn car.
iRock on the YouTube chat says, just go ahead and move Believe It or Not to Tuesday as well. Man, we could do a show next Tuesday where it's like, better to forget it, more likely to happen, believe it or not, questions and answers, ask us anything, beat the Blues, one's got to go.
What an easy show.
Just do a best of.
Another best of? I'll show up at 11 then if we're going to do that. That's fantastic.
Somebody said, as long as you like to go into breweries, Alex, you're invited.
Oh, yeah. Also, don't take 3 kids. By the way, my 3 girls came to the live podcast last night. Incredible. They sat there. I didn't hear a peep out of them.
How did that go?
It was fantastic, man. Shout out to all the Blues fans that showed up because we had a ton of people at Hot Shots. Also, 5 large bins filled of canned goods and non-perishable items that we got to donate to Operation Food Search. So
I was going to clap. Well done. Careful. That thing breaks. It might take a week to get it fixed. Coming up next, the Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about this because it's big news in our industry, Alex. Earlier today, it was announced that Pardon My Take is going to be headed to Netflix. It will no longer be available on YouTube. They've signed an exclusive streaming deal with Netflix. It is not just Pardon My Take. It also includes The Ryan Russillo Show, and I know this is a podcast that you like. The Spittin' Chicklets podcast will also officially be available exclusively on video through Netflix. They also have a partnership, I believe, with Spotify, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Bill Simmons show will be over there. And it seems as though they're trying to get into the podcast game. Now, as we've seen with what we do, we are on YouTube now. And a lot of audio mediums are now video mediums as well, because that's where our audience is, and we need to be wherever you are. So if that means you're in your car and you listen exclusively to podcasts, well, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're at work and you're sitting at your desk and in the corner of your laptop, you've got us on video, we need to be there. Like, those are the things that people want to do. I find these deals to be fascinating, Alex, because a big part of the growth for shows like Pardon My Take, Ryan Russillo, Spittin' Chicklets, is their availability. They are wherever you are. And now that is going to change. There is Netflix is not cheap. Netflix is like $20 a month now. There's now a legit paywall. Now, you can still listen to the audio, so it's still available for you for free. But if you want to watch the video, it is now technically considered to be behind a paywall. I wonder how that plays with some of their listeners. I think a lot of people will just be happy that they got a bag. I mean, they're not getting this for free. Netflix paid a boatload of money, I have to imagine, to get these podcasts. But I wonder how viewers will look at this and how much it'll change the viewership potentially.
Yeah, I'll be fascinated with it because, like, that's a dedicated group of listeners, like, especially for the Spittin' Chicklets. I mean, they have a cult following. Like, absolutely. Any hockey
Pardon My Take, same thing.
Exactly. And so, like, I think a lot of people may look at this and be like, "Oh, man, people aren't going to pay for that." I actually think people would pay for that because now it's a exclusive opportunity. Like, I do wonder if some numbers dip because it's a subscription based rather than just downloading and getting the updated podcast. But
that's still available. Audio's still there.
But
you just can't go over on YouTube. You can't view it on Twitter. Like, all of those video streams are no longer accessible.
And that's where I think it actually flourishes, especially for like Spittin' Chicklets when they get guests and people want to see that stuff. So yeah, I am fascinated to see how this thing goes.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I would think that most of their audience is probably already on Netflix. So now, if you're Netflix, where's your growth coming from this? Maybe you do get an extra couple of people or thousands of people that end up subscribing to Netflix because they want to watch their favorite podcast. But I would think it's not that significant of a number. Now, I could obviously be wrong, but I do find it interesting because Netflix has been rumored to try and wanting to compete with YouTube because this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to start the fight with YouTube on this side of things. That's why they're also starting to get more involved in sports, as we've seen, is they've got 2 Christmas games this year for the NFL. It's fascinating. I would think most of their audience, though, is already there. That's why I find it interesting from the Netflix perspective.
They want to have everything. Like, if you're Netflix, I want every type of subscriber.
That's why they're trying to buy Paramount? Is that right? No, that's wrong. Paramount? HBO? Whoever's on HBO. Warner Brothers.
If you look at Pardon My Take, like, their YouTube views, it's around 150 to 200,000 views per episode. That's a real audience, man. Like, that's a significant audience. You don't see a lot of TV shows that are outside of the sports world that get those kinds of numbers. So if you're Netflix and I can even capture half of that audience, that's a really big deal for me. I also just don't want people going over to YouTube for that. I don't know if you guys are this way, but when I open up something on Netflix, a lot of the time the next thing just starts playing. Or if I'm on YouTube and I'm watching a video, the next thing just starts playing for me. Like, if you're watching our show right now over on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN if you allow it to finish, it'll start playing the next thing from 101 ESPN a lot of the time. That's good for YouTube, and it's good for us at 101 ESPN. So if Netflix has, 100,000 people watching Pardon My Take, and then they just stick around after the show to watch whatever the next show is that comes on, that's, again, a really good thing for Netflix. So that way you stick with them. You hold the channel there instead of flipping over somewhere else. So I'll be very curious to see what this means and how it affects like this kind of an industry, for example, and where all of this is moving, because we're in the midst of a huge shift, a seismic shift in media. And I don't know where it's going 10 years from now. It's been happening really for, I don't know, the last 15 years or so, probably at a minimum. And I think we're still very much in like the early stages of what this medium will look like 10, 15, 20 years from now. It will not look like this, though. I don't know what it'll be, but it will not be this current form for sure. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 10 minutes, we'll play a game of More Likely to Happen. You guys give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely. But next, what's the goal for a Brendan Donovan return? Are you trying to get something that's closer to the major league level, or are you just getting the highest ceiling possible? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, this is something T-Bone brought up to us yesterday, Alex. We didn't ultimately get to it because of the Doug Armstrong news and what we ended up talking about with the Blues, but the Cardinals are going to have to make a decision on Brendan Donovan sooner rather than later. A, do we trade him or do we keep him? And B, if we do decide to go down the path of trading him, what kind of a return are we prioritizing? T-Bone, if you were in Chaim Bloom's shoes, what is the criteria that you're looking for in return for Brendan Donovan?
I think if you're Chaim Bloom, I think it's unfair to say that you pinpoint this one trade from Chaim Bloom in his first offseason of making moves and saying this is the trade that has to accelerate the retool or the rebuild, whatever the hell you want to call it. But I think that's a little unfair. I think what you have to call this trade is any move he is making right now, he has to at minimum hit that these are major league talent guys. You are looking for upside in these players. Like I'll bring up the Mariners prospect called Superman, the outfielder that they have, who sounds just like Jordan Walker.
You call him Laz, that's his name.
You acquire him for his upside, but you also acquire him hoping his floor is like, if he doesn't become a superstar, he becomes a very good regular piece for you. Because I think it's unfair to hope that they acquire a superstar in this kind of a trade for a Brendan Donovan.
That is interesting because I looked at it the way that he doesn't look at it, or said it's unfair. I look at it as I am going to pinpoint this as it's the turning point to where you can make this a successful retool or rebuild. And I don't know if you need to make it a superstar, but you need to strike gold on this one because this is the best asset you're going to have to trade in your time with the Cardinals.
And if it doesn't work, then what?
I think you're looking at the Cardinals through the rest of their development system, right? Like you're looking at Weatherhole. What do they do with their first round pick? Yes, they have to acquire a star at some point. I'm not judging it off of just this trade has to be the one that does it.
But who's the piece that you trade in the
Chaim's
future?
got 5 years to figure out who the next star is going to be, and if that's internally or externally where he's going to have to acquire him.
That's fascinating, and this is why I love this trade possibility. We all look at this differently. I'm just swinging for the fences. Whatever your highest upside prospect is that you can get in return for Brendan Donovan, that's who I'm taking. And this Lazaro Montes, I think there's a real chance he never becomes a major league contributor. It's an upside play. And if it doesn't work, you swung for the fences. Like everybody saw the talent here. He was called Superman yesterday on our airwaves by the Mariners insider. The Durangelo pitcher, the ambidextrous pitcher, that's an upside play. He's got a big-time fastball with a slider to go along with it, and he's got the potential to be, at a minimum, like a mid-rotation starter. Yeah, let's take some swings here. Let's see what you can get in return for Brendan Donovan. And if it doesn't work out, that's baseball. That's the way this thing goes. Like, a lot of the time, you're wrong. In fact, most of the time with prospects, you get it wrong. That's the nature of trading current talent for future major leaguers. The odds are pretty heavily in favor of Brendan Donovan will be a better major leaguer over his career than anybody you trade him for. But there's a chance, maybe it's a 10% chance, maybe it's 20%. I don't know what the odds are specifically, but there's a chance the guy you trade him for becomes a superstar. And you never know when that's going to happen, but you can give yourself a better chance based upon the profile of player that you try to acquire. The Cardinals in the past have very much gone for singles. They've traded a lot of their major league talent for players that are close to the major leagues and you're pretty confident will become contributors at the major league level. That is the opposite of what I would prioritize in this trade. I would be looking to acquire somebody that if they reach their ceiling, and not all players are this way, they've got a chance to become a stud at the major league level. So it's interesting to me that we all have completely differing viewpoints on what the priority should be with this trade. And I think it speaks to the conversations that almost certainly are and definitely should be taking place right now within the Cardinals front office.
And I think part of the reason behind my thinking here is, like, I know what you're saying, T-Bone, is like, well, then you're going to have to find it externally if you're not making it this way, or internally if you're not making it. Then that goes back to, well, then you're going to be bad for a couple of years and have to strike on one of these draft picks, which how often does that happen? And look at the luck you just had where you're drafting 13th overall this season. But on top of that, I don't know if you have that piece in your system yet. And if you're not drafting top 10 moving forward, which you might be, but we all know the lottery could change that, it gets a lot more difficult to do that other than you having one of the best assets you've had in a long time to trade and don't strike on that trade.
Real quick, T-Bone, before we get to you, the manager, Lou Brown, says on the text line, couldn't this swing and miss operation lead to a perpetual rebuild? Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why I like a floor to the guy as well.
But so could continuing to swing for
just Major League Baseball players.
If you end up swinging for the floor, that's what the Cardinals were. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals were a team that could consistently get to that 83 to 89 win threshold. Very rarely did they get beyond that, and very rarely did they get below that. And the reason why is because they continued to swing for guys that are solid contributors. And so you can end up being wrong in both scenarios. Like T-Bone's idea might not work. My idea might not work. The upside to my idea is much higher. The downside is much lower. For where the Cardinals find themselves right now, I don't think that's the end of the world because you just keep giving yourself swings. Next year in the draft, swing. The year after that in the draft, after you're really bad in 2026, you're going to have probably a top 5-ish selection. Swing for the fences. And so now you've got J.J. Weatherholt, you've got Liam Doyle, you've got next year's top 15 overall selection, you got the following year's top probably 5 overall selection. Plus, you've got all the return from the Sonny Gray trade, the Wilson Contreras deal, the Brendan Donovan deal, any others that you decide to make either now or in the future. And when you have all of that talent coming into your system and you've been swinging for the fences with all of them, you put the odds suddenly in your favor that one of them, maybe 2 of them will work out. And if you get that and you've done the job that is necessary to improve your development pipeline, to where you're still consistently producing some of those Brendan Donovan types in the future, Tommy Edmonds in the future, that's the way that you become a contender again. And not just for the playoffs, but for something more meaningful.
Yeah, and I admit there is a way that mine fails of what I'm talking about, where yes, I am still swinging for upside plays, but I still view they have to have a floor of a big leaguer. The reason
it's
I
hard
say
to find,
it can
though. You
fail,
don't really find those guys.
I think you can find a couple of those guys.
And they're top 10 prospects in Major League Baseball, and that's not what you get for Brendan Donovan.
But I would say Nootbaar was a guy that they felt not a super high ceiling, but they felt like there was more in his bag than what he's ended up showing, and he's been a good big
He didn't have a
leaguer.
floor, though. When he was a prospect, you had no idea that he was going to become this.
I guess that's fair.
And
but
his status as a prospect was really
the problem
low.
with the swings, though, is like the texter said, you can get into that perpetual rebuild if you want to go fast. And the reason that I bring up that the player has to have a floor is because I'm almost thinking of kind of what the Cardinals were doing, which is, yeah, okay, maybe I don't get a superstar in this deal, but if you're willing to supplement a roster eventually by whether it's spending in free agency or trading like they used to do and go out and acquire stars, then you can make this trade work by acquiring your next Brendan Donovan in a Brendan Donovan deal, long as you're willing to supplement that core when it is time and when it is necessary. And that's where I think the risk runs in mine, right? If the Cardinals aren't going to be willing to go out in free agency and spend on a star or eventually get to a point where Heim's willing to do what Mo would do, which was go out and trade for the star like Goldschmidt or the star like Arenado, you can't do what I'm talking about, to where it is, yeah, okay, if we do acquire our next Brendan Donovan, then all you end up doing is building that mediocre team that you were making reference to.
I'm not expecting them to do that. I think they should. I don't think they're going to sign that guy because of the contract and because I don't think players are really trying to sign with St. Louis right now.
Yeah,
I think it's a different time.
That's the last-ditch team to where I can't get a job. Let's call Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that those guys sign with New York. They sign with L.A. They sign with San Diego. They sign with Chicago. Like, they go to the big markets nowadays. And when was the last time the Cardinals did something like that? Hell, how many teams in a mid-market are doing that? Signing like this, the legit superstars, not just good players, but superstars are signing in mid to smaller market teams. It doesn't really happen. Trades happen occasionally. You see some of that, no doubt, but it's not happening to the same degree that it once was because these big market teams not only have the money to sign those players, but also they're the places where Tarek Skubal wants to go. He wants to go to LA. He's more willing to re-sign there, so they're the team that's going to sign him and trade for him. And if you're the Cardinals, I'm not trading for that guy unless I know he's re-signing here. And I don't think they have that same certainty as they once did. So it feels more important than ever that they either try and trade for a young guy that becomes their superstar, or they draft that guy and develop him from their own system, because that's how you end up keeping your superstar internal. Bobby Witt Jr. stays in Kansas City. Like, these guys that are coming through these smaller markets, they sometimes do stay there. It's very rare that they sign there originally coming out of free agency. So that's the way that I would look at it. Somebody else on the text line, Lisa, says, BK, this is the Cardinals, not the Royals. Well, they're sure operating a whole hell of a lot like the Royals right now. And so I know it sucks. I'm not telling you that you have to like it. You absolutely do not. But the Cardinals are operating right now like the Royals have for the last 20 years. So that's where I'm bringing some of my experience to these conversations. All right, in 15 minutes, we'll talk to David Pagnotta, Daily Faceoff's NHL insider. He said a lot of stuff about the Blues and what they're trying to accomplish on the trade market. We'll get his thoughts on it coming up here in about 15 minutes. More likely to happen next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, do you think that, I don't know, maybe Dalibor Dvorsky's going to get a point in tonight's game for the St. Louis Blues? Maybe Suter's able to get one. Robert Thomas, you can get in on the action over on the Underdog
Jonathan
app.
Berggren.
Jonathan, maybe.
No, I Americanized
somebody
it
else
there.
that you could go with as well. If you want to get in on the action, the place to do so is with Underdog. Download the app today. Use our promo code BKO. Alex will tell you about what you can get with that. I personally love getting involved on the football side of things. I've got Puka Nacua to score a touchdown. Jason Myers higher on his kicking points. Matthew Stafford higher on his passing touchdowns. And Puka Nacua higher on his receiving yards. That's my Thursday night football play. I got a 50% odds boost on that as well. It's all available for you on the Underdog app.
Also, how about some boxing? Jake Paul stepping back into the ring on Friday. An Underdog is dropping a 50% boost to crank up that action, so you can go for that, a chance to win up to 5,000 times your cash over on the Underdog app. Download it today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You guys give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario.
Go straight to T-Bone. He's on fire right now.
Go ahead, T-Bone.
I don't have my more likely to happen yet, but the NBA Cup Championship is the stupidest thing that's been invented in sports. And BK is going to tell you about participation. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. The people that are watching it are ruining sports.
The NBA Cup was good this year.
Thank you.
I don't know how else to put it. It was good. It worked. If you don't like it, that's totally cool. I've got no problem with that. But it worked this year. Guys were into it. They played hard. It was interesting. It was compelling television. It's better than a regular season game. It's not the perfect format, but again, the guys were into it. They played hard. It was fun to watch. I don't really see what the downside is to this.
It's ruining the game, Brandon.
Based upon what, though? T-Bone doesn't like watching the NBA regular season either way.
Because the NBA disincentivized the regular
season. Why would I format my scheduling to have T-Bone watch a sport that he doesn't otherwise watch anyways?
Well, what are we going to say when the NHL brings it?
They already had Four Nations, and it was phenomenal.
It was great.
No, they're going to bring a in-season tournament for the NHL.
Those guys try, though.
I don't think the NHL has a problem with its in-season product.
No.
I think the NBA did. They had a real problem where guys were not playing hard every night. So instead, you get something else that incentivizes them by some money and the quote-unquote cup. Is it perfect? No, but it works. Guys, we're into it. It was fun basketball to watch.
I love this. This is phenomenal. T-Bone's fuming over there. BK, what do you got?
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. More likely to be traded by the Cardinals this offseason. Pedro Pajes or Nolan Gorman?
I want to say Pedro Pajes. I think nobody's going to offer anything that's worth trading Nolan Gorman, and the Cardinals will say, why not? Pajes, I can see somebody saying, let's go trade so we can get a defensive catcher, and the Cardinals got like 17 catchers.
That's my side as well.
Yeah, I would lean Pajes as well. The quote that Army had of, we're not trading guys for 50 cents on the dollar, I think that's Heim's thought process.
I was going to say Heim is.
Because Heim's not going to do that for Gorman. I think he's going to wait and see if Gorman can have a good first half, and then you capitalize on his value at the trade deadline. Same with Newbar. So, yeah, I would say it's more likely Pedro Pajes.
More likely to happen, guys. Jonathan Berggren, nailed it, is on the Blues by the end of the season, or he's back on waivers before the deadline.
The latter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's here for the rest of the season.
I have no idea.
Well, then
but I would say it's more likely that he ends up going elsewhere. Or he's back on waivers.
I would lean that route right now. More likely he goes back on waivers, but I definitely see the path to where he is here all year, to where if you make moves, I mean, you're going to have bodies that fill in, and if that's the case, he becomes Verona and Kapanen, what they were 2 years ago.
My thought process is I wonder if Stenberg looks like maybe needs to go back to the AHL for a little bit more seasoning like Kaskamaki was. You're obviously going to send Matt Luff back that way, and once guys start to get healthy, that's when I wonder if the Blues start wheeling and dealing, and I don't know what this kid's going to look like. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. But I kind of put him in the same conversation as Robbie Fabry of like, hey, he's going to get life. He wants a chance. If he looks good, you keep Fabry and Berggren for the rest of the season and let him play.
T-Bone?
Guys, more likely to happen. We see Alec Burleson get traded this offseason, or Army moves one of Booch, Thomas, Kyrou at this year's deadline.
I'll say, Burleson. If you would have said offseason, I probably would have said the Blues. But at the deadline, those guys just don't get traded unless it's a one-for-one hockey deal.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's how I lean. I think it would be Burley. I think those guys we just talked about would be off-season moves.
Let's get to a few of these from the text line. We'll get to David Pagnotta on the other side. Daily Faceoffs, NHL Insider. More likely to happen, Alex, from the text line. Colton Parayko or Robert Thomas is traded? I'd say it's more likely Thomas.
Yeah, I think I would agree Robert Thomas because you need, even if he's having a down year, which my tinfoil theory is Parayko's hurt right now, but you need a guy like that with younger because if Falk gets moved, your right side's going to be Mayu and Adam Juracek. So I would say it's Thomas.
I'd say Thomas as well, and he would carry significant value on the market.
More likely to win a game in the college football playoff, Tulane or JMU? I'll go Tulane.
Tulane.
I'd go Tulane as well. JMU's not played anybody tough on their schedule.
More likely to happen, multiple games in the college football playoff are one score, or all of them are won by double digits.
I would say
multiple one-score games. There's at least two of them that are really interesting.
All of them aren't going to be won by that much.
Yeah, I would say you see one-score games because that Oklahoma-Alabama game could be like a race to 10.
More likely to be the Cardinals starting second baseman in 2026, JJ or Donovan? I'd go JJ. JJ, pretty easily.
JJ, not close
For how
me.
adamant BK was, there's no way Donovan should be back on this team.
More likely to draft and develop a superstar, the Blues or the Cardinals?
I'd say Blues because this year's a real shot to be at worst top 3.
I'd say Cardinals.
I will too. I think they have more shots at it right now.
Yeah, more shots. And like in hockey, it truly is basically 1 through 5 picks. Baseball, we see guys come from anywhere, international market. We see late round picks, like that guy named Albert Pujols was taken in like the 21st round and became a superstar. You don't see a lot of those guys happening in the NHL where they're taking the 6th round and become studs.
I'll tell you this, watch these World Juniors that are going to be starting up shortly because 3 of the potential top 3 picks are all going to be in action.
I saw a good write-up today from The Athletic on Gavin McKenna. Sounds like he's been playing well so far.
Is Keaton Verhoff, this right-handed defenseman's playing for Team Canada as well, and then Stenberg's brother's going to be in that top line for Sweden.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. David Pagnotta has been saying a lot about the St. Louis Blues. He hasn't done it here, though, in the St. Louis market. He'll tell us what he's hearing on the Blues, their possibilities of making a trade prior to the trade freeze on Friday. David Pagnotta joins us next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues will be back in action tonight as they host the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage tonight starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, the Daily Faceoffs NHL insider. He's David Pagnotta joining us here on the show. We've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks from him on the Daily Faceoff shows, talking about the St. Louis Blues and what their plans are with their potential trades. David, we appreciate the time and you hopping on with us here in St. Louis today. So what can you tell us is the latest, the speculation that you've heard on what Doug Armstrong plans to do potentially ahead of this year's winter freeze?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. He's continuing to listen. I think he made it known in November that they're open for business. It didn't necessarily mean, and it hasn't happened to this point, that they were going to start just unloading guys left, right, and center, but to at least get the process started and to have those conversations earlier than normal, to at least lay some groundwork and some foundational work leading up to later on in the season, not necessarily just the holiday freeze coming up, but ahead of the Olympics, and then, of course, ahead of the March 6th trade deadline. And some of these conversations for some other pieces will certainly carry over into the summer. But he wanted to get ahead of the 8 ball. And that's effectively what has happened here. A lot of teams have been reaching out on a number of their players. Braden Shen and Justin Falk kind of leading that charge in terms of generating the most interest right now. There are obviously teams that are kicking the tires on other pieces, whether it's a Jordan Bennington, whether it's an Oscar Sundquist, who's a pending UFA, Matthew Joseph, another pending UFA. We know teams have poked around on Jordan Kyrou and so on and so on. I anticipate this continuing throughout the season. Doesn't, again, necessarily mean we're going to see action immediately, but this is Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen doing due diligence and making sure that they've got all their ducks in a row when it's time to pull the trigger, and that's really going to come down to when other teams approach them and say, all right, we're ready to do some business.
David, hearing Doug Armstrong talk yesterday to the media, it seems like they're not looking for picks. They want more players that maybe are younger, that could be at the NHL sooner. You mentioned some of these names that are being floated around out there. Do you think these types of names warrant that return?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when you're looking at, a Braden Shen, for example, you're looking at a first-round pick / equivalent value being that of a younger, prospect or NHL-ready athlete, and an additional asset on top of that. It may be even a trifecta of a first-round pick / equivalent prospect and another asset for that particular piece. I think for Justin Falk, similar type of vote. And I know, Doug Armstrong mentioned yesterday, does it make a lot of sense for us to be pulling in first-round picks that are going to be in the later part of the draft? Yes and no, because those can also be packaged and flipped later on, especially around the draft, for pieces that fit the young mindset of this team moving forward, looking at the early to mid-20s and moving forward with those particular pieces. So I don't think he's going to shy away from that. If that's the best offer that's presented, he's going to pounce on it. But it's clear that they want to move forward in a direction that isn't a rebuild, is more of a retool, and doing so with younger assets that are either NHL proven or almost / on the cusp of being NHL ready.
What do you think the value would be for Jordan Bennington on the trade market?
It's difficult to say because the goaltending market, now that obviously Pittsburgh and Edmonton made their moves, the goaltending market isn't overly robust. It's not deep. So for something of this, magnitude, you're either looking at an injury that's taken place on another contending team, or you're going to have to wait for the offseason to potentially pursue something like that. I still think there's good value there, and I think a lot of stock was put into how he performed at Four Nations last season, and if he does jump on Team Canada's roster, which I personally anticipate, if his performance is similar, if not the same, to what happened in Four Nations last February, then that value significantly increases, and you're looking for a three-pronged type of return similar to that of Shen if it's at that caliber. He does have some no-trade protection. He's got one more year on his contract at $6 million cap hit. So that number plus the market itself might make things difficult, as I mentioned, for in-season. But, again, Doug Armstrong has acknowledged that if the right deal is there, they'll look at it. They'll present it to him if they feel they're ready. But this may be something that, if it does occur, is more likely to happen in the offseason.
David Pagnotta joining us here on 101 ESPN. You can read his work over at the Fourth Period. That's where he's the editor-in-chief. I also see him occasionally on the Daily Faceoff as well. When you think, or when you talk with people, rather, David, around the league about Robert Thomas, I don't know how many of those conversations you've had, but maybe even as it pertains to like Team Canada conversations, for example, how is he viewed across the league?
Well, yeah, still a very, very solid piece. A kid who's 26 years old, and for his capabilities and where the cap is going at a solid rate at just over an $8 million clip. Solid performance the last couple of seasons, putting up 80-plus points. A little bit of regression this year, but I think it's more of a result, and for a lot of the players on this team, of just the overall team performance. There's no sugarcoating the fact that this team has disappointed to this point, and it's a collective disappointment. It's not one or two players that are excelling at a tremendous rate, and the rest of the group is pulling them behind. It's everybody just hasn't been meeting expectations. But you look at a player like Robert Thomas, still valued as a significantly good asset to have, a top-tier, top-line player in this league. And circumstantially, his numbers are affected by the performance of the team overall. But there's not another team in the league that wouldn't love to get their hands on a caliber player like Robert Thomas.
So, David, in terms of Kyrou, who I know you mentioned teams have poked around with in the offseason, Robert Thomas, who you just spoke of, Pavel Buchnevich, who's got a lot of trade protection and is a little bit up there in age. What's the appetite around the league, you feel, for a hockey trade like that? That if the Blues were to go down, that path of trying to change the look of the team, are there a lot of teams out there that might be looking to do the same, that could be a match for the Blues?
Yeah, there are some certainly that are interested in making those types of moves, and a lot of these teams, you start making your planning now, and you're looking at your roster, and you're going, okay, well, we've got a hole here, a hole there. How do we fill it? Can we look to free agency? And because of the salary cap increasing, so many guys have been re-signing with their teams and inking extensions. It's really shallowed the free agent pool going into July. And that's where a lot of teams begin to pivot to look at where their options are going to be available with respect to, the trade market. And I think, if you're looking at a team, like I look at Seattle, for example, one of the teams, Montreal was another, I think Ottawa, there were a couple others that kicked tires on Kyrou in the summer around the draft back in June. But Seattle specifically is looking and still looking for a top six, top-line caliber player to add to their roster. Kyrou, I believe, is still on their radar. And they're a team that wants to take next steps in terms of bringing those. If they have multiple pieces that they're willing to put together that are young, that kind of fit the mold of what the Blues would be looking for, even though Kyrou is just 27, I think that's the type of conversation that I think Doug Armstrong would certainly entertain from that side of things. There are teams that are looking for those types of pieces. Anaheim is another one. They've got a lot of young talent and a lot of young pieces in the cupboard. They're certainly not going to be partying with anybody like Carlson or Gauthier or anything like that, McTavish and so on. But they have a number of other assets that they would be looking to potentially package up to lure a team that has a player like Kyrou's status to make something happen here. So there is an appetite across the league to make those hockey-type trades that you mentioned. They're obviously a lot more difficult, and some of them kind of are more likely to occur in the offseason. But because of how things are shifting in this economic world of the NHL with respect to the increasing cap and how teams are getting a lot of their business done internally, it opens up the window for trade possibilities a lot more frequently than we've been used to in the past.
David Pagnotta is as plugged in as anybody in the NHL. You can find his work over at The Fourth Period. You can hear him on Sirius XM, occasionally on Daily Faceoff. You can also find him on Twitter at The Fourth Period, TheFourth period. David, appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks for joining us today right before the holiday freeze. We'll talk with you again soon.
You got it. Can't wait. Take care.
That's David Pagnotta. Appreciate his time as always here on BK and Ferrario.
I was just thinking of this when he was talking about Braden Shannon. Just I'll tinfoil it and say just keep an eye on it. Winnipeg for a Braden Shen trade, because we've talked about how maybe it's not the picks, it's more the prospects. First of all, Shen would, speculate, look at that because his brother plays there. Luke Shen plays there. And remember last year they were talking about how he really wants to play with his brother. But second, they've got a couple of prospects in their system that I wonder if they'd be willing to part with. One of them is a 20-year-old centerman who played junior hockey last year, is in their minor league team right now, Braden Yeager. He was traded from Pittsburgh, 14th overall pick. That's a team that, as David was talking, it's like, man, if it gets to the deadline, because we talked last year that Toronto potentially could trade one of their young prospects for Braden Shen, that Fraser Minton, who got traded to Boston. I don't know if that's too steep of an ask if you're Winnipeg for a Braden Shen, but I could see that one happening because Braden would love to play with his brother. And do they go after a young player who's more in the age frame than worrying about a first-round pick?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, if you missed any of our conversation with David Pagnotta, be sure to check it out on the podcast page after the show today. It's sponsored by Schaefer Door Company. Also, the 101 ESPN app, always available for you. Free to download, super easy to use, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. It's 1:49. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here in Missouri. Your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now, you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. So maybe you're going to get in on the action tonight for the Blues game. They've got a 50% profit boost for the Blues versus Winnipeg Jets. Also, maybe you're a college basketball fan. They've got a 30% profit boost for college basketball. Same game parlays going on right now as well. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Tanner. That's code Tanner as new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code Tanner. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from the show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Alex, going to be a new look to the lineup tonight for the St. Louis Blues. They're back in action this evening against the Winnipeg Jets, front end of a back-to-back 6 o'clock pregame with Alex here on 101 ESPN. No clue what the lineup is going to be. We know, generally speaking, who's going to be in it, and we also know that Joel Hofer is expected to be in net for the Blues. They're going to have to start him either tonight or tomorrow, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. However, the way they normally prioritize this is the team that you're going up against, I don't know, in your respective conference/division. That's the more important game of the two. And they're using Joel Hofer for that game here, going up against the Winnipeg Jets, a divisional opponent. What do you make of the choice, Alex?
It's the passing, not the passing of the torch, but it's them saying, like, look, let's give Joel Hofer a little bit of a run here. And I don't think this is, I fully expect Jordan Binnington to play a majority of the games once the Christmas break is over. But for right now, I think, one, you put your best foot forward and try and win the game, and that's Joel Hofer for how well he's played. And two, I do think some of this is the Blues just want to see what it looks like. I saw the quote from Jim Montgomery today that basically said, look, he had a bad game the other night. We want to see how he bounces back from it. This is a figuring out what this guy's got situation for the Blues, just like they're doing with Dvorsky, just like they're doing with Stenberg, like they're doing with Mayu. It's a challenge for Joel Hofer, and they want to see how he handles it.
I'm curious to see what this game looks like tonight. How are you guys feeling going in? Am I correct on this, or YouTube chat's been talking about it today? Is Hellebuck back?
Yeah, he played
okay.
The other night for Winnipeg. So
I love Jets -1.5.
I don't think it's going to be good for the Blues, but I also am very curious what Connor Hellebuck looks like, because it's the first time back in St. Louis, which, I mean, that guy got pulled 3 times he was here in the playoffs last year.
It's different stakes.
Season.
Yeah. He's pretty good in the regular season.
Pretty good in the regular
if this
season,
was a
sure.
like NBA Cup tournament game, he'd be terrible.
Yeah, but I can't wait to hear those. That was good, actually, Tim.
Thank you.
That was really good. That was a good man.
It's a nice recall right there.
I'll be curious to see what this one looks like. But honestly, I'm not even focused on the game outcome more than I'm focused. I want to see what Stenberg looks like. I want to see what Berggren looks like. I'm curious what Dvorsky looks like, who looks like he's going to get a top 6 role. And then you see the continued development of guys like Logan Mayu. I'm in that development stage now, so postgame might not be as all upset as people want me to be, but
NHL draft. Go ahead and go over to Tankathon.
Top 3 right now, buddy. Top 3.
Is Calgary playing tonight? Let's take a look.
Did they win last night?
I would assume. No, I don't think so.
Oh.
They
Calgary
were leading.
is not playing this evening.
They got their butts kicked 6-3. They were up 3-2.
Vancouver is also not playing this evening.
Seattle lost last night. Vancouver won last night.
Can keep moving on up.
Moving on down.
Yeah.
Ooh, tomorrow night it's Seattle versus Calgary. Overtime. If you
lose the next 2,
who's gonna watch that game?
And Calgary loses tomorrow, you've got a chance to move up to the number 2 overall selection
as
in the NHL draft.
As Ludacris once said, Luda coming for the number 1 spot.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK.
Come on, you don't even know Ludacris?
You don't know Ludacris?
Get back!
I don't know that one.
You at least know him from his movies.
I know the name. What movie's he been in?
Fast and the Furious.
Oh, that's him? Oh, okay.
When I move, you move.
I feel so
I know
old on
that
this
one.
show
I know that
sometimes, T.
Shut
Alex.
up, man.
So old. I know he doesn't know T. Come on, you got to know Ludacris.
If you don't know T.I. is younger than Ludacris.
If you guys missed anything from the show, you can hear what we had to say about the Mizzou running back situation. I had to address that. We also talked a little bit about the Cardinals' offseason plans and what they should be prioritizing in their return for Brendan Donovan. Also, why coaches seem to be much higher on Georgia in the college football playoff than we are as the consensus. All right, we'll talk about all of that and so much more tomorrow. We will talk to you then. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.